What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Her Lounge podcast. As promised, I am so excited for today's episode, guys. It's something I've been wanting to do. I've been trying to coordinate this with Lucy for a hot second, and it's finally happened. It was perfect timing, too, though.
Yes.
Because today...
You're always right on time, boo.
Right. Today is National Autism Awareness Day. So I thought it would be perfect to kick off this episode this way for those of you. And when I posted it, I got so many DMs from so many parents, Lucy, that said, just raise the hand that they were a parent of a child with autism. Mm-hmm. So I thought this was going to be great. And I always like to start with the positive quote. And since we're speaking about autism today, I wanted to say this. If they can't learn the way we teach the way they learn. Mm-hmm. So, and I know you guys talk about
that's right,
having to
make adjustments baby.
Yeah. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on and being willing to be so open about talking about Jamin's journey, because it's been a journey. I was telling them that the first time I met your son was we were dropping off some stuff to you. And you were like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, no. And then I got a text from you later on. You were like, thank you for being so like open to understanding and not being like scared, because a lot of people just kind of are thrown off.
Learn to be apologetic naturally because you're constantly apologizing for his behaviors or his just being different, and it's new. So any mothers that are listening that are in that state right now where you're constantly, I'm sorry,
stop apologizing,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
At one point it clicks and you're just like, I'm not apologetic. If he was in your way, I'll let him start to get to that point where he's grown or mature enough or understanding enough to say, I teach him now, say, make sure you say you're sorry. Did you step on her feet? Make sure you say you're sorry.
Of course.
But I'm not the mom that's trailing anymore. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about also, I guess, what autism really is for those who are listening who
I'm
don't
still learning.
who don't really know what autism is, because they don't really know why it happens, right? Sometimes they say it can be hereditary, which I find it kind of odd. Like it's something.
I've heard people say genetics. I've heard people say drug use. I've heard
people say agriculture, what we're putting in our bodies. The rates of autism it's just skyrocketing.
It's more than what they've seen it.
Though? My first son, he's 11. And when he was born, I was able to stay home for a while. And so for him, he thought juice was water, like everything was like organic. And the same thing for Aiden too. But so I had more of like an influence on everything that went into his body, everything from when he was a baby.
Right.
And with my second son, who does have autism, 6 weeks later, I handed him over to my husband's aunt, and he was introduced to Coke by one. He was drinking juice. They were going to McDonald's. All of the things that I didn't do
with your son,
with Isaiah, and it was kind of hard to battle it, because even though I'm doing my thing at home, he was with her 10 hours a day because I'm dropping him off at 6 something in the morning, and then I'm riding around doing what I got to do, and then I'm picking him up. So, that was kind of one of the things that I was thinking about, because you start to think about, what did I do?
Well, what you did is natural. You think about everything that could have happened, that you might have ate, that you might have drank, that you might have been exposed to. You start to play the blame game. Yeah. It's my fault.
Yeah.
Because there's no natural science to it. It just, you don't know.
There really is no answer. I've joined the autism awareness groups. I've joined all those mom groups on Facebook, and everybody has a different answer. But I think one thing we can all kind of agree on is that we really don't know.
We don't know.
And it's very true, because in like 97, 98, when I was in high school and I was doing the teacher program, I only worked with children with special needs, right?
Which is how we connected, because I was looking for somebody to help sponsor. We were doing an autism awareness raffle just to kind of, raise awareness that way. And I had no idea. I just reached out, and she's like, I actually have this connection because of where I worked. And I just thought, again, God puts people in your place.
I was like, oh my God. It was, for me though, it was different. I would get so frustrated with the parents. I think I told Marissa this. I would be like, why the F are you not involved? Why are you just letting the teachers be involved?
Mariswole B.
Mariswole B.
I was just like, I didn't understand it. Like, And I saw it more in Hispanic parents because I think it's a little bit harder for Hispanic parents to kind of really.
It hasn't changed. My mother, I'm going to say undisclosed location, but it is a middle school here in HISD, which I often help out very much. The reason why I advocate so much for her kids and the reason why she does is because the parents don't. And it's just heartbreaking because she'll tell me there's such an rush to drop these kids off before they're willing to. They're the first ones here, the last ones here. When they come back from vacation, you can tell they're hungry, they're restless, they're off their schedule. You can just tell they were just trying to get through the days, and their real care is in that classroom. And I just don't understand.
I don't either. It used to drive me bananas. I remember one lady said was, well, it's because superstitious stuff and something about she did something she wasn't supposed to do while she was pregnant. So this was her punishment or something. I said, what?
Yeah, that's...
Do you think you would
baby with special needs is not punishment?
Exactly. I just was like in awe. And I thought to myself, like, the, what is it called? I don't even know if they're called that anymore. I think they're called ARC meetings.
ARD.
Okay. And so the parent would just come in and just kind of sit there. And when I was in the program for school, you had to get permission from the parents to allow a student who is trying, who's in the program to allow you to sit in there, right?
Yeah. ARDs are like, you're going to start seeing more of them, I guess, I'm assuming. Or do you homeschool or regular school?
No, he goes to private school.
They're in private school, but
ARDs are like the new lawyer's table, like a lot of like a lawyer's table. Like
it's everybody.
It's very and everybody has to have permission to be in there, and you have to. They even like advocates now will say you need to, if you have somebody that can represent you, they need to be in there. I mean, it's a very hardcore scenario now.
And this is a public school?
This is public.
Yeah,
and what is the point of that?
So these are, when I was doing it, it was for evaluations, where they need to go, what needs to happen next.
So ARD basically stands for like the arrival, renewal, and dismissal type of situation in a classroom. So basically when they come into the classroom in the beginning of the year, you have an ARD. And then it's the dismissal at the end of the year when they leave that classroom. And basically they put a BIP, behavioral intervention plans, into place. And I hate to sound so negative, but they basically just make a bunch of promises, right? Yeah. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. These are his goals. This is an IEP. This is, this is what we're going to master. It sounds great and lovely in the beginning of the year. You're thinking like, oh my God, my kid's really about to achieve this year. But then it's like another year ends and all those plans didn't get mastered. We ran into problems. Teachers got frustrated. I got frustrated. And here we are in like year 5 and I'm still in the same behavioral plans with the same promises. My son's not even writing yet. He's starting to write, but with the help of his father and I feel like he goes to school and everything's like typing now. And I'm like, no, put the pencil in his hand. I want him to learn to write,
But then too, and that's why when we found out, or we didn't even know Aiden had autism, but what started to make my husband and I worry a little bit was the fact that his speech was delayed. By the time Isaiah was 3, we were having hardcore conversations.
Right.
And for Aiden, it was a lot of noises and it was a lot of like a few words that he would say. And I was like, maybe because his Thea just, when he cries or he throws something or he has a little whatever,
or maybe I'm too responsive and I don't let him respond to me or say his words.
She responds to the noise versus making him speak. And so we just kind of, because she spoiled him. And so we were kind of thinking, well, maybe it's because he's always with her and maybe that's why he's not talking. It's just taking him long. But it wasn't until but that was kind of like a red flag. And so we just said, well, maybe he's got speech delay, but I'm not putting him in HISD because they'll eat him alive and spit him out.
Yeah.
Or they'll say that he's in special ed and there's never an incentive to take them out because the school system gets more grant money or more funding for kids who are special ed. So there really is no urgency to get them where they need to go and remove them, right?
General population.
Pretty much.
Right.
And so, so that's why we even put him into private school. But when he was in private school, his teacher started to notice the social issues and the noise and
So was it a teacher that brought it to your attention?
It was a teacher that brought it to my attention, and a principal. And then that's when we got the testing done, and then we found out that he did have autism. So, but it's been a challenge. But that was the thing about the public school system that I was like, I don't know if we can do it.
Yeah, and when I would go into those meetings, I'd always be like, the parent wasn't asking questions, and I was like.
But sometimes, don't get me wrong, you're overwhelmed. Especially for me as a parent, the first couple of ARDs, I was very timid. I was very quiet. I didn't know what questions to ask. I didn't even know I was allowed to have an advocate. I didn't know what an advocate was. You know, I just went in there thinking, okay, I'm just going to let them talk. And then if I have any questions, I guess I'll ask. They even make you sign papers saying, did you ask any questions? And they type as you're talking. So they keep documentation
of everything.
What the conversation's happening.
Yeah.
Yes.
And intimidating.
It's very, but I guess because I was in the class with the student, I would be like, how do I tell this lady to ask this question without, because you can't say anything as a
really
student. You're just observing, because these are, if you're planning to be a special education teacher, these are things that you're going to have to be involved in. And so you're just observing, and that's all your job is. And I just wanted to be like, ma'am, can you please ask this question about your son? And then that's another thing. She's got an interpreter, a translator there for her too. And so it's like, and then I'm looking at the girl now that I'm an interpreter, which is crazy. Her job is only to interpret. You also can't advocate. And I just want to, that's always been my problem as an interpreter. I always want to be like, you need to tell them to ask this. And whenever I was getting evaluated to become an interpreter, the girl who you're doing the internship with, you know, who's evaluating you, would always, she's like, you have got to separate. Like, you're not their advocate. She's like, there's people that do that job. She's like, you're here to interpret. All you do is you're their voice. So I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to deduct points from this review. And I'm just like, why can I just draw the line here? You know what I'm saying? Just not be involved. And that was always my thing. I tell my mom, like, these moms don't even care. I'm like, they don't.
But you do. And I think that's a big part of what we're doing today. And not only bringing awareness, but acceptance, acknowledgement, and advocacy. And those are some of the things that I kind of try to put on to autism awareness. Because everyone says, oh, okay, autism awareness. I'm aware. There's so much more that goes into it.
Sure.
And you automatically, in your heart, and the ways that you saw and saw things and understood them, your natural passion was to speak and to be that voice that wasn't there.
For sure.
And I feel like that is so needed.
Is this podcast going to come out today?
Tomorrow on actual National Awareness Day. It's actual. So
Got
Fridays.
I was
actually,
like, man, this needs to be out today.
Yeah. It's actually
It needs to be out every day.
Yeah.
You know,
it does.
I'm beyond April Awareness Month. I'm like, this is
your everyday life.
Everyday life for not only for us. I feel like, you know, we just lived through one of the roughest years in history, and
Don't
I feel
remind
like
me, girl.
It was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough mentally. It was tough, and anybody that was living on the spectrum, it was even a bigger deal because
and then the fact that we had to teach them from home.
Oh my God,
that was a fucking
I bet.
especially for Aiden. That was tough.
I think
and my job, because again, I had a normal job.
Yeah.
Not understanding at all, Lou. They just don't get it.
I became a social drinker to like babe, can you go to Costco and give me a bottle of wine?
Give me the big box. Give me the box of wine.
I had to adjust my whole lifestyle, and it just kicked off because of the lockdown.
Thank God you had your husband.
I do, you know, and that's another thing. I'm gonna give him some props today because with the autism lifestyle, there's a lot of marriages that don't make it.
Oh,
a lot of marriages that don't make it.
I believe it. A lot of people, even the minute they find out, it becomes a problem.
Sometimes it's not just
Everything.
the men. Sometimes the moms bounce. And I make jokes to him all the time. Like, nah, I get why these women say, I'm going to go to Target, don't come back.
My
understand.
husband always says, your kids are a deal breaker.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? I understand.
Okay.
But, you know, some marriages don't make it.
Yeah.
And it's because there's that tension where it's like, as the mama bear, what I'm doing is right, and I feel entitled because I've done the doctor visits, I've done the research, I'm the one that's worrying all the time when he doesn't do this or doesn't do that. The teachers are calling me. But
Yes,
now that
they
my
are.
son is turning to a teenager, he doesn't want his mom. He wants his dad. And I understand because he's not comfortable with me anymore. I mean, I want to hug him and kiss him and all of that stuff, but he does not want me.
Yeah.
And he hides from me and he avoids me in the house, and I get it. But, you know, but he loves his dad, and
Yeah.
they're bros now. So
Yeah.
I see it. You know what I mean? But
But that's
Props to him
also
for-
an awesome thing too, because now you're seeing that because one thing that they say that they struggle with is like emotions, and showing affection and receiving affection, and just like the normal cues that we kind of pick up on, and the relationships between mom and kid or dad and kid, and the fact that they're starting to bond, that's good. Like that's a positive thing.
But I do expose our life on Instagram and stuff, and I do talk about Jamin and his journey and stuff like that. I try not to expose so much of my marriage, because I hate to be one of those like, oh, my husband's here when I just have a break, because I know a lot of women doing it by themselves, and I don't want to do that to them. I don't want to put that in their face.
Yeah, like I have somebody and you don't.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And they're by themselves, and I personally have moms that follow me that reach out to me that are like, I don't know what I can't do another day by myself. I cannot do another day by myself, and I'm all they have. So what do I do? And I'm just like, oh.
But it's okay to give him a shout out, to let people know that you do have, and the only reason I can maintain is because I have the support system. So shout out to everybody.
He's like a child sometimes too, though. I have to put them all in the
I think
corner.
all of our husbands are Rob.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Preaching to the choir.
Yes, I know. Oh my God. Yeah. Bless your heart.
but rewind real quick. Okay. I guess I guess for as short as you can make it, what is technically autism? Do you?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So
teach us.
Let's do this. All right. So autism it's a cognitive delay in the brain. So when they hear the word cognitive already, they're confused, right?
Yeah.
So think about the connection between your brain and your hand, right? I want to turn this switch. I want to turn this dial. So instantly I can do that.
Yeah.
With an autistic brain, it's up there, but what I see and how I can form that is not. It's very crossed wires.
Yes.
So there's a lot of development delayed. Speech, physical. My son didn't start walking until almost like 17 months, I want to say. There's social delayed development. They don't have that. They don't know how to function in society or what's okay and what's not okay. They're just not comfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a lot of crossed wires is really what it is. It's also, aside from the delayed part, it's also just, the best way I can explain to people is what they see is we don't see it. And what we see, they don't see it. So it's that cross communication where I'm literally telling my son, like, no, you have to put your shoes on right. They are on right. No, they're not on right. They're backwards.
Yeah.
No, they're not. And he'll chunk his shoes at me. And I'm like, but they were wrong. But in his mind, that felt right because it's sensory.
They're good.
And sensory is another huge thing in autism. It's very sensory overload stimulation. They constantly need the stimulation, or sometimes things overstimulate them and they don't want it. They don't want to be around it. That's why noise is such a big deal. My son just barely this last year was okay with fireworks. When I tell you the last 10 years of my life, every New Year's, every 4th of July, every Memorial Day, any holiday that pertains to fireworks, I have been in a closet with covers, pitch black, headphones, with headphones underneath, jamming Kids Bop for like 10 years because he gets so overstimulated, scared, traumatic. I mean, he's crying, he's screaming. And what am I going to do? Tell all of my neighbors, don't pop fireworks, please. I'm the one neighbor. I do publicly speak about it on my Facebook with my little neighborhood, like, hey, you know, you don't have to pop until 3 a.m. because this is happening the entire duration. He doesn't stop till they stop.
Girl, yes.
So a lot of the people around our neighborhood kind of get the idea of at least our house, but I mean, they go off without a hitch every time. But it's exhausting. And so for 10 years, I've never celebrated the countdown of New Year's. My husband's always done it with my kid, with her. She just saw fireworks for the first time. She's 9. She just saw them for the first time 2 years ago because we allowed her to go outside. She's never been outside. We all had to hunker down, literally, like it's the end of the world. We had to hunker down to be with him. And so this last year, I switched it up, and instead of caving into the fear, I was like, we're going to we bought the little sprinklers, the sparklers. We kind of just started to work towards it, and they're going to happen. The fireworks are going to happen. They're going to happen in 3 hours, in 2 hours, in 1 hour. Yeah. And they started popping, and it was just floodgates of tears. He didn't freak out. I was the one crying. I was like, oh my God, we made it. We did a breakthrough, Jesus. And it was, I'm not going to lie, it was what we did. We opened our curtains to where he can see them, and so we kind of forced him to see them. It was almost like that movie, what is the Bird Box? We kind of forced him to see it. Yeah. And he screamed bloody murder, and then he was like, okay. Like, he had never seen them before. He had never seen them before. He just knew to always hide and to retreat when he heard them. So that was a big accomplishment. Yeah. And that's another thing with autism is that every single step is a milestone. It is not. you know, there's some parents like, oh, you know, my kid did this and did that. Great. And I'm like, my kid brushed his teeth today. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. He did it by himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every step is a milestone.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes into what autism really is. I mean, it's a lifestyle is really what it is. For
sure.
Every day.
Yeah.
Nonstop.
When did you guys first find out that he had autism? Because right now when you were asking the questions about eye-hand coordination and stuff, whenever I would this is my first child, right? So whenever I had Penny, I would go to the doctor and be like, oh, why do they ask all these questions every time I come in here? Like, yes, and it wasn't until, I don't know what made me snap. And I said, holy shit, now I know why they ask these questions.
Yeah,
this is the traces. Yes, exactly. And I didn't realize that it starts that early on when you're going to the doctor
friends
visits.
saying that they're diagnosing in the belly. I don't know how true that is.
What?
They're diagnosing in the belly. Like, someone had told me, like, oh, they think that the fetus has autism. I'm like, how?
do they do?
I don't know. And I don't know if it's accurate or true.
I don't know about
But I
that.
do know that when my son was diagnosed around 2010, 11.
How old was he?
He was 4, about to be 5, and we were still in that early range of autism. So it was, girl, like, you're talking about the demand. There wasn't enough doctors. We were on a waiting list for 2 years just to even get him seen because there weren't enough doctors in Houston.
And now there's just
you can go down the
everywhere.
street. You can actually get them diagnosed within the school district now.
Yeah.
Yes, because our other friend, that's
But we
kind of
went
had
to
happened to her.
Meyer Center. Shout out to Meyer Center. If you're listening to this podcast and you need resources, go look up Meyer Center for Autism. And they are like the Cadillac of all autism centers. They got it all. And so on that specific center, we were waiting for 2 years to get him seen. And in the meantime, I was very active still. I went and got him diagnosed by the school district. But at that time, when you put your kid in special programs or special ed or anything, they want to see the official documentation of a diagnosis.
Doctor,
yeah,
right,
they need a
yeah.
doctor to say that. And so he was about 4 or 5. He was delayed in walking. He was delayed in talking. All of that. But I'm a typical Mexican where my mom's like, "You're always holding him. That's why he doesn't walk. Put him down. Let him walk." You know. So I thought it was me. It was my first baby, so I really catered to him. And then he wasn't social. He wouldn't talk to anybody. I always noticed I would take him to playgrounds and he would sit in the mulch and he would just dig himself in the mulch for hours, stimulating himself. He would just get mulch and throw it. Then I would notice at home, I would do laundry. He'd get the sock basket. He had this fascination with socks. He would throw the socks and just pick through them and just pick through them and just pick through them and organize them. And I was like, oh my God, he has my OCD. I thought it was my OCD. I was like, oh my gosh, I gave my child OCD. But he wouldn't socialize. Even with my nieces, I come from a big family. We'd go to their houses. He didn't want nothing to do with them. Yeah. So my husband, of course, and I thought, let's put him in daycare. You know, I was a daycare teacher for 10 years. So I was like, this is what he needs. He needs to be in a classroom. Well, he got in the classroom. He didn't socialize. He was always off in the corner. He didn't talk. He was just this like little mute child. He was nonverbal. And so the teacher came to me one day picking him up. She's like, come here, I just want you to take a look. I don't want you to freak out. I just want you to take a look. So she turns me around and all the kids are watching a movie. And he's literally off facing the corner, just like kind of stimming and moving his hands. But he has no idea what's going on. And so she's like, is this normal to you? And I said, well, he always does that, you know? And she's like, well, what do you think it means? And I said, honestly, I don't know what it means. And she's like, I think he has autism. That was the first word, the first time I had heard the word autism. Mind blowing, right? I don't know what that means. So I asked her and she told me the same thing. You know, it's a cognitive, development delayed, kind of like behaviors. And there's just a lot of behavior problems and emotional problems and sensitive problems. And, you know, you might want to get it checked out. I remember calling my husband immediately as soon as I got in the car. It was like somebody just dropped a bomb, you know? Yeah. They think he has autism. My husband, what's autism? I don't know. It's just all these problems. I don't know.
He's like, they're crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
But I Googled it and it said right off the back, like, you know, no eye contact. Yeah. Limited communication skills. Delayed development, intellectual delayed development, academic. I mean, it was a list.
It started to make sense.
And I was like, I was checking them off. Like, oh my God, he has every single one of them.
Yeah.
That's when for me, I think my life shifted and kicked into gear and I became like a doctor, a scientist, a therapist. I kicked into gear. I was like, I'm doing all the research.
Researches like a mother who's concerned. Okay?
Exactly. Yes. And on top of that, because you want, like, you know, you want to know when you go into these doctors to see him, like what questions you should be asking.
Exactly.
What should I know? What do I do? Like,
and is this going to change my life?
Yeah.
And am I going to be is this it for us? Like, you know, I remember the first time when we started to get closer to the diagnosis, and I actually think he was diagnosed at that point. This is when, of course, he's like 6 or 7 now, and he's still mindful. Like, he's not verbal, so he's a bigger kid. Like, I just met your son. He's talking his words. My kid was that size, not communicating with me.
Yeah.
And I remember the doctor saying, he's going to probably live with you for the rest of your life, so just be prepared. You're probably going to care for him, and just, you know, he's probably going to need that guidance and that help.
And that right there is so stressful, because then you immediately start thinking, when I die,
so I
who's
was like,
going to
okay.
take care of him? Like,
And at that time, he wasn't potty trained.
Yeah.
So I'm like thinking, like, oh my God, I'm going to be changing diapers of a grown. You're thinking all the worst because you don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was it. Like, I mean, everything just literally changed for us, and every day was just about how could we get him to be okay, and how can we get him to blend. And then I think this is probably where the podcast shifts over to, how can we get society to accept him?
we can't.
And that is where, honestly, like, that's why I'm here today, is because I need to put that word out there. Like, this isn't going away.
Yeah.
This is nothing new. And this isn't going to ever be resolved, because there's no cure to autism. It just happens. I don't, again, we don't know. Is it something within the
genetic?
genes?
Is it something you did? Is it environmental?
Exactly. We don't know. But I can tell you that the rates are rising so high right now.
Was the baby on formula? Because there's a lot of sketchy things coming out about the formula.
There's formula accusations. There's immunization.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm big on the immunization.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because honestly, I never was. I was okay with immunizations because I grew up getting them, right? My mom took me to get my immunizations. Like, you know, that's just what you do. You have to get into school. You got to get your shots, right? No big deal. Well, my son was 6 months. We did all his shots up until 6 months. And I will tell you that for us, from born to 6 months, everything was fine. Like, we noticed everything was fine. There was no reason to be alarmed. We went to his 6-month checkup. Doctor comes in. He's going to need these 3 shots, but these are the ones where they're not mandatory, where they just tell you, you might want to get them, you might want to consider them, but we don't know, you know, how his body will react to them. But we do know that to travel or to be in a school setting, he needs these shots. And at that time, like I said, I was working at daycare and I was taking him with me. So, you know, I was like, okay. And I said, well, let me talk to my husband. Let me see, you know, because again, you're not educated on this stuff. You don't know. You just kind of trust the doctor. And it's almost like they kind of want you to go ahead and consider it while they're out of the room, because she closes the door, and I'm not even kidding you. There is a poster, and it's a story about a kid who didn't get his shots and went to Mexico and died. So you're like, oh, okay, yeah, so he's going to get his shots today. Programming, right? So I'm like, okay, yeah, he has to get his shots, so that can't happen. And my husband's like, we don't go to Mexico. I was like, I don't care. I don't want anything to happen, and then me be the mom that said, I didn't get his shots. He gets his shots. Probably within the next few weeks, just regresses automatically. He was snapping, stop snapping. He was looking at it, stop looking. He was laughing, stop laughing. It all happened really fast. And I don't ever want to say it's because of the immunizations, but I will tell you that I saw the difference in my child after we got them. And whenever we got his blood tested, he did have a lot of metals in his blood. And they did say it could have been from the immunizations.
So why I was so cautious.
That's why it's important to drink bentonite clay. Does anybody drink bentonite clay? A lot of people put bentonite clay on their face because it really is a good detoxifier. And I used to have a juice with bentonite clay, but nobody bought it, so I just stopped making it.
You might have to start making it again.
But the bentonite clay, it helps to detox your body of like heavy metals and all kinds of shit like that. So, and for me, it was important because my husband works in the refineries, and I know he's gonna have. Well, I hope he doesn't have issues, but that is important to us because of that. But then you start talking about the heavy metals, and we formula, do. Formula has heavy metals.
I saw this thing. I don't know if it's true, guys, because again, you can't believe everything you see on the internet, right? But it's they put the powder like this on the table. They grab a magnet, and then it sticks to it. I was like, no effing way. I didn't.
Did Penny have formula? Or
I breastfed. Yeah. She didn't get formula till a little bit late when I was trying to wean her off.
That's why I'm going to try so hard with this one to breastfeed, because the first two I just kind of I didn't make enough milk, so I just gave up.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to give.
With Aiden, I didn't even try.
Well, consider it their food source, right? They tell us don't eat processed food. Try to stick to the fresh and the fruit, the organic, what you know. I always try to compare it to like eat the apple, not the applesauce that you buy at the store, because it's been processed all the way through to where it's not even an apple anymore. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So the same thing with formula. If you can nurse, then I would just nurse, because I didn't with him. I did nurse up to like I think 6 weeks. I had to go back to work, so I stopped nursing.
Yeah.
And with her,
pumping is hard. That's another job. Trust me, I'd be at the airport in a corner like this with my shirt on, and I'm just sitting there like this. Sometimes,
What are you sneezing? What is that?
well, that's
the
what
noise.
the noise it makes.
Like
well, I had the
it does
hand
sound like
one, so
sneeze,
I was a
though.
little bit more in
I could have done it
control.
better.
Well, and then
It's
when you
okay.
were in a seat and then I could feel my shirt getting wet, I'd be like, hey, I don't care. So I would literally
Or when
pump my
you're like overdosed
that's-
and it hurts,
yes.
and you're just like, give me the first mouth that you see.
and I'm just like, I didn't care.
Excuse me? Excuse me?
Sorry,
my
look
goodness,
how
bro, that's
R-rated.
a
Don't say that too loud in an airport.
So I would just like, you know what I'm saying? I would just pull it out. I didn't care anymore. At first I was very like,
Embarrassed.
embarrassed,
Yeah.
very like, gosh. And then after that I was like,
You're feeding your
I'm
child.
feeding my
Walk around.
child. I don't care anymore, you know?
Could it come out pretty violently if you didn't like melt? You know what I'm saying?
I
Like,
mean, you could go like this and it squeeses.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
it
you
goes
touch
out.
it and
Yeah, it
My
goes
husband
out.
tasted it because he's disgusting.
So did Pete.
I would.
He was
I'd
like, I
taste
want to
it.
see what this tastes
creamer
like.
and new creamer in your coffee.
Yeah, that's what he
Right.
tried it. He tried it in the coffee.
Oh, my goodness.
But the vaccination part, I think it came from working like being a I thought I wanted to be a teacher at one point. I
Yeah.
think that's what it came from. So I did.
VIP.
That's my baby.
VIP.
I
Special
thought
guest,
to,
y'all.
I thought to myself, man, I shouldn't probably be doing this because I'm going to stress myself out being pregnant, right? Trying to teach myself with the things, right? And then it was like, I'm going to have to do it. And so I watched that documentary, Vaxxed. And I just
Game
like
changer.
started
Yeah.
crying, and I
You
was
don't
like,
know
Boo,
again.
you're gonna have to give me the breakdown of the vaccinations that you do and how you do it.
so I just follow the Dr. Sears
yeah.
method. And here's another thing. Pediatricians don't want you to follow something that's not what they are wanting you to do.
well, where the money's behind.
Right.
honey. I mean,
Yeah.
God, we can
So,
really get into this.
Yes, because
I mean, CIA has technically tapped in. They want to know what we're talking about.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
My midwife was the one that, because they're all about organic and doing
The
things as
natural way.
natural way as possible. A lot of the women in these groups were like against vaccinations, and a lot of them were for it. And so when I spoke to my midwife about it, she goes, I didn't vaccinate my children ever. So luckily we do live in a state where you do have to go
Yeah.
as far
Yeah.
as Austin and get, permission, and you get the certificate that says that it's your right to
Yeah.
not vaccinate your kid, but it's a whole process
Well,
to get
I
that.
will say, in the school system, anybody that is in the public school system can have it waived. I've learned that. I didn't know that. I was following what I thought was right. So if they say, well, your kid can't come into the classroom, well,
Yeah.
okay, I'll get the vaccination.
Yeah.
But after what happened and what we saw with my son with her, she's never been vaccinated. I signed.
And look,
I
she's
signed-
healthy.
She's healthy as a horse, but I also did nurse her for like the 4 first years of her life. She was pretty much talking to me, telling me what she wanted to eat. So
Like that.
she's
What's that
healthy.
movie when he's like, my baby's 56 months?
yeah. It's
156
something parents. I know what you're
Or
talking
something.
about.
Yeah.
So
156
I
months.
signed every waiver every time she went into school, and they never gave me a big deal. So that's another tip and information for the parents that are out there that think that they have to get their kids vaccinated. You absolutely do not.
Yeah, you don't. I follow what's called the Dr. Sears method.
Okay. Yes.
And so the Dr. Sears method is, it is more of a pain for the parent because you do have to come back almost every month. So you're at the pediatrician's office almost every month because you're not giving them the concoction of the 2 or 3 combined. And it was funny because the pediatrician was always really nice. So I go to the pediatrician that my midwife works with, right? And granted, she doesn't accept my insurance, right?
That's a whole other segment.
Yeah, exactly. So
girl.
she doesn't. She only does Medicaid. So I have.
Well, it's
I have
flipped and flopped, right? There's some doctors that you need and you're on Medicaid that you can't
Yes.
get, and then there's where you have private
Exactly.
insurance that you need, but
Exactly.
they don't take your private.
Exactly.
So it's all, yes.
So she said, I can take. I don't know. It was confusing, but I had regular insurance, right? My insurance is community health choice, but there's a community health choice that's with Medicaid also. So they take the community health choice with Medicaid, but they don't take the community health choice that's
you
the
have.
private.
Yeah, that's the
Does that
private.
make sense?
Yeah.
It's
so
all
I was like,
complicated.
No, it doesn't
What?
make sense, but I get it.
yeah.
I see
So I
what
was
you're
like,
saying.
so you take community health choice, but you don't take it. Okay, I was so confused.
Yeah.
So I said, fine. So then I said, well, damn, I'm paying for insurance. Let me go find a pediatrician that does. Well, I went to 3 different pediatricians. Each one of them wanted me to vaccinate her all at once in order for them to start seeing her. I said, absolutely not. I'm trying to avoid this issue. None of you guys want to follow the Dr. Sears method. So I said, no, I'm cool. So I just called the pediatrician that she had originally started to see. And I just asked her, I said, what are the doctor visits? How much is it going to cost? And so it was reasonable to where it wasn't breaking my pocket. I'm sure
it was worth it.
But it was worth it because I got to do what I wanted to do. Okay. And immediately after she, and maybe this is just mental, guys, I don't know. Immediately after having the shots, I would breastfeed her. Immediately.
Right.
So, because, they're crying. So I would immediately, that soothes them. I'd immediately stick my boob in there. She'd calm down. And thankfully, she never had the fever. You know how they say kids get fevers?
It gives them
had
side
no
effects.
side effects. We were good. But I also was not following, because like you said, I grew up getting vaccinated too. One of the things that I don't remember, I should ask my midwife again.
I don't think our vaccinations back in the day were
they're
like
different.
these.
Well, they're now given to us. I think they were given alive to us when we were growing up, and I think now they gave it to you the dead, or vice versa. One of those two, and I don't.
Well, I do know
I
they
don't
give
remember.
you whatever you're getting vaccinated for. They give you the virus of it so that your body kind of tricks itself into having it, right?
Okay.
So that's
Are
what
they
I'm
still
under.
teaching it? Are they still giving it to you like that now? Because whatever they used to do before,
We haven't been. We got vaccinated for this, but as far as what my children, I haven't taken them to get vaccinated. I have no idea what they're pumping, but I do hear horror stories still that my child got vaccinated and all of this happens. So I don't recommend. And I'm not saying anybody out there listening. I'm not trying to tell you.
I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm just saying.
I'm not an anti-vaxxer. Please don't
read
put me on
about your
blast.
shit, bitch.
YouTube, don't take us down.
It gets dark.
Please, but you have to do your research. You have to do and that's as a parent, whether you have a child on the spectrum or not, you have to do your research. You can't just, trust what the doctor's going to say. Sometimes we do fall in, with the right pediatrician that will guide you all the way through. I love my pediatrician. She's been there for both of my children, and she's watched Damon grow up, and she knows immediately when something needs to be done. She refers him right away. He needs to go through this. He needs to do that. But then you have some pediatricians out there that are just there for the check and the job, and they take the patients in like numbers, and they see 100 a day, and you're just another case, So you just really, as a parent, have to do your research, which is also under the umbrella of acceptance. There's a lot of parents that their child have been diagnosed, and they're like, well, not my baby. I mean, they're okay in my eyes. They have some issues, but I don't believe in autism. I've had parents, this is a fact. So when my son was diagnosed, fast forward, now we're living the whole lifestyle. Well, I wanted to get him into ABA, but ABA does not take anything other than private insurance.
Girl, I know.
That's
We had our
issues.
son in ABA.
And ABA, I don't know if you know the breakdown, but ABA could be anywhere from $500 to $1,100 a week. We're talking about because the ABA therapists get paid per hour, and then you put the hours in. Yes, so if you have insurance that it's all taken care of, great. You don't ever see the bill, but.
Yeah.
When I first put him in, we had like a $7,000 deductible, and I was like, to even get him in, I have to pay this deductible.
Yep.
And so we did a fundraiser, we did a barbecue, and our family came out, and they helped us, God, and our friends, everybody helped us, God willing. We met our deductible. I never had to pay it for that year. Well, I couldn't keep doing that every year. So what I decided to do was to go get my ABA license, and I became a certified ABA therapist.
Genius. Yes. See?
But-
That's what
Oh
I'm
my
talking
God.
about.
Can I drop my kid off at your house?
All the facts.
Can I
have
drop
my
him off at your
notes,
house?
I have my binders. I have my books. I give ABA tips out for free because you got to go pay for this stuff. I'm like, no, this is what you do. This is what you need to do.
Yeah.
I know all the what do you call it? The verbiage and what's this called and the ABCs and all of that.
Well,
So-
the crazy thing is that, okay, so we put him at a place called Action Behavior Center. So
Okay.
it's ABA.
Applied behavioral analysis for anybody wondering what ABA means.
I wasn't even sure what that was. See, I don't know enough.
Applied behavioral analysis, because what ABA really is it's data control. We literally sit with your child with an iPad, and we take down all the data of what they're doing, what started the behavior. It's called the ABCs for a reason. So it's before the behavior itself, and the consequence, what happened after that took place. So what's causing these meltdowns? What's causing these fits? What's causing him to stim? It's data control. It's a lot, but it does help. And there's a lot of, that's a whole other thing too. There's a lot of parents saying now that it's too
That's what I was
powerful.
going to say, that but we saw that he was making progress, right? But what was happening was that at the same time, we're having to keep up with his regular schoolwork at his school, his learning, whatever, his academics. And so he fell behind. So we pulled him out so that we could put him back into school.
Right.
And then that didn't end up working out. So he's actually with me right now.
So you know what we did? We took, and I got permission, and this happened, and I don't even know how I got away with this, but I did. I took him out of school for a year, and I kept him in ABA for a full year until he mastered everything. And then
you put him back.
I put him back in school.
Yeah. And so
Because
that's what
honestly,
we're trying to do.
I felt like, well, what are you really going to miss at school? They're not real. It's not giving you what ABA is giving you. And I know there's parents out there that are probably listening to this saying, well, how do I get into ABA? Or I can't get into ABA. Or in the same situation. You could go online, get your ABA certificate.
How long does it take?
It took me 4 days.
Wow.
4 days in front of the computer. Just
Come on,
Was it a lot?
test. No, it's honestly, I mean, it can be. It's overwhelming information, right?
No, I'm
But
talking about price, honey. Price. Give us the price.
$400.
Okay,
It was
I
worth
can do
it
that.
because I have this information for the rest of my life, and I can pass it on to other people. And I use it with my son all the time. I
need to
use
do
ABA
this.
on my dog and my husband, y'all.
Oh,
I was just about to ask, now you use on my wife?
ABA on
What causes her meltdowns? Tell me right now.
My husband, he's like, don't be trying to analyze me right now because I can break
I'm just saying
it
that's your
down.
behavior. It's your
I'm
behavior.
just saying. So you got a little triggered. I noticed whenever this took place,
Oof,
and that
Marissa's got
happened.
all the triggers.
Oh my goodness. Hey, but we took him out. Well, so we took him out of ABA, put him in school, and then a couple months ago, the principal was like, "Look, he's doing good with his academics. Like he knows his basic math, how to read, stuff like that. Now, when you start to get into, they want them to do social studies and all of these other things
too
where what is the setting and who are the characters, he knows, but it's starting to get a little complex. And they're saying when he goes into second grade, they're going to expect him to be able to
Wait till he gets into middle school.
yeah. And so what we decided was, number one, we're going to hold him back. He's going to do first grade again. And it's better to do it now than do it, find out in the second grade or the third grade that,
Huge
that he's
acknowledgement
just
on
sitting
your part
there.
too, by the way.
Huh?
Huge acknowledgement on your
And
part
you know
to
what?
say I'm okay with you.
Shout out
holding
to the principal. I love you, Dr. Bates. But he's like, so he's having good days, but he's just sitting there. And a lot of the things are going above his head.
Right.
And so I'm not comfortable with him just having a full day and sitting in class. And, you know, when they do the basics, he gets it. But when they're doing the other stuff, he's struggling because he's just not understanding. And so
some
he's
of
like,
this stuff you can't. I mean, she's in fourth grade, and I get so frustrated because she gives me her homework, and I can't do it.
Sounds like me in school. Everything went over my head.
Well, but
dude,
now they're
they
teaching math now.
they changed the methods.
it's complicated.
I mean, that's a whole other segment.
Like
Yeah,
the squares,
exactly.
all the square
The box-
boxes.
box
Yeah, I was like,
boxes,
dude,
what
I
is
can't
that?
do that.
So, real quick, we won't get
It's
off
too
target
much.
here.
It's too
Multiplication
much.
in our day used to be called butterfly method, right?
Yeah.
Done. Now it's a box method where you literally have to break. If you're doing 25 times 45, you have to do 20 and 5, 40 and 5. You have to add all the boxes and get your total. Why?
See how they're trying
Why
to make
do
it hard
all
for
that?
kids to learn.
And I stepped up and I told the teacher, this is waste. She's like, this is just the way the curriculum is set. And she has to know it or she's going to fail. She has
Yeah.
to do it this way. I don't have control. This is what the regulations are
Yeah.
for them to pass. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I had to teach myself box method and waste 5 minutes on a problem that could have took me
Yeah.
30 seconds.
Or they
And
do
so-
these dots too now.
Yeah, it's
They
insane.
come
It's crazy.
So honestly, if your son's struggling, he's not the only one.
So what we did was I just said, well, I told my husband, well, fuck it. I'm just going to bring him with me. We're going to make juice and we're going to run around and do our thing. And we'll start fresh in August. But we are trying to get him back into ABA. And so, but, you know, I was calling around because they sent me an email. Well, why don't you try this school? Why don't you try that school? But the office at his private school, they did a little bit of research. He's like, these sound good. So call. You're looking at $2,300 to $3,400 a month.
A month.
A month.
I believe you.
So it's
Get your
it's crazy.
license.
Yeah.
Get your license and you do it.
Thank you for inviting me, Mariswole. Hell yeah. I'm
I
gonna get my
just when
license.
she
You're welcome.
told me, I said,
What?
It was
I said,
his
oh my
idea.
God, you have got to. I said because you're so good at advocating about your sons, and I love that because I feel it's so important. Whatever issue your child has, as a parent, I don't care what it is, whether it's autism, Down syndrome, I don't care what it is. As a parent, you have got to understand it, even if it's just a little bit. Even if you still don't 100%
Awareness.
know, you have to understand it because it's the same thing when I would see hearing parents of deaf children. I used to teach just ASL 1 at our center, right? And I had a mom there who was coming to learn ASL because her son was finally graduating high school. Mm-hmm. They go to the Texas School for the Deaf in Austin, so they live there, right? Mm-hmm. So he was going to graduate. He was coming home for good now, right? Mm-hmm. And so she was going to have to not just do the home signs, which are made up signs, right? Yeah. Now she's going to have to legit have conversations, and she didn't know she wasn't fluent. And I wanted to be a smartass so bad and be like, you're just now
figuring it out,
wanting to learn. Yeah. You've had your child at this school all their life.
Parents rely on the school a lot.
God, that coffee looks good. I'm sorry. I've been looking at it this whole time.
I'm gonna bring you some next time.
She's making me work like a slave and didn't even have my coffee ready for me when I got here.
There needs to be a coffee machine in here.
No, we always have coffee, and then it was like, we don't have coffee. Pete's like, you have to grind it. I said, how do I grind it? He's like, the grinder. I'm like, well, where's the grinder? He's like, it should be. And I'm like, okay, Marissa, you're. I don't know.
For this house to not have coffee.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, I must have been really busy.
Yeah,
somebody needs to sponsor this podcast. Yeah, right. Just throwing that out there.
Exactly.
Great idea.
But a lot of parents rely on the school so much that by the time the child makes their way back around, even when they come home on a simple day, it's just like, okay, I got you now. So what do we do for the next 3 hours? Okay, go ahead and like eat, take a shower, and go to bed, because they mentally have shut down. They don't want to deal with it. It's just too much. And then you have the parents who take that 3 hours and utilize it and say, okay, let's do your flashcards. Let's work on this. Let's take a walk.
And shout out to them, boo, because I've had good days and I've had bad
But I think that's any parent, Marissa. I think a lot of parents, you too are stressed out. You too are.
And you know who else is struggling? My son. My other son.
Your oldest son.
The siblings.
Because it's hard for him. He's trying to understand what's going on. He's like, Mom, I'm always having to defend him at school.
But what I will tell you is by him living this lifestyle with his brother, you've already raised a champion to be in the world. Honey. Because he's going to advocate naturally. He's going to see what's right and what's wrong. Yep. If somebody's picking on his brother, he's not going to take that crap. Facts, when he sees it happen to somebody else, he probably won't take that crap. This girl right here, I have to tell her, like, please, she's like, I want to hit this kid because he was bullying. Her bullying, like, that's her advocacy right there. She doesn't do bullying.
Amen.
And so she's like, he was being mean, he was bullying Jamin, and she was crying one day. It really bothered me because she was so emotionally stressed, and I'm like, it's just, and that's where this conversation needs to lead. Every household, whether your child has a disability or not, every household needs to preach kindness.
Yes.
Not to bully.
Starts in your house.
It starts in your home.
Yeah, it does.
And it's okay to be different. And if a child comes up to you, like my son, who is kind of all in your space because he's socially awkward and he wants to say hi, but he doesn't know how to say hi, and he kind of touches your hand, but he kind of...
Does he touch your butt? Because my kid does that to everybody.
He doesn't touch butts, but he does like pretty girls. Like, so if you have your makeup and everything done, he's just like checking you out. And so awkward. But he's checking you out the whole time.
What's up, girl?
Yeah, my friend's kid. It would be so funny if I'd see him and I was dolled up. He was really nice to me, right? And then if I'd come over and
your
be like,
chanclas.
or I just came back from the gym and I was just stopping by or whatever, and she'd be like, Miss Marisol, are you gonna put on makeup? I'd be like, damn, no filter, Jesus. I'm like,
no filter, no boundaries, and so sometimes they have that trouble communicating, right? They don't know how to put themselves in a conversation. Like, honestly, my son we have a neighborhood of boys, and so naturally he wants to go out there and he wants to play with them, but they don't necessarily want to play with him back, or they maybe, I can't judge, right? They probably don't know how to interact with him either. But it just like boggles my mind because I've seen him go up to them and try to say hi, and they kind of just act like he's not there. So I'm thinking I'm thinking the other way. I'm thinking your mom is a hoe. Like,
your mama is a hoe.
Why didn't she
wherever
teach
you are?
Why didn't she? Why don't y'all know about this? Like, why don't y'all know that other kids are different? And then he might be a little awkward, but it's okay to at least acknowledge that he's there. You know what I mean? Instead of keep passing the ball over him like he's just a ghost. Like, that breaks my heart. You know,
of course.
And I think that conversation needs to be had in these homes, and it's not just autism. It's everybody that is different. It is okay to accept somebody that is not just like you.
And I think some of it, let me tell you why I think this. In elementary school, I don't remember seeing anybody with autism or Down syndrome around me, right? That's because they go to another facility, right? Okay.
Another facility or another classroom within the school, but they're hidden, and it's called special ed, but it's really a room far, far away. They go on a different lunch. They go on a different recess. And at first,
assholes.
They are, but let me tell you, when he got to middle school, I learned to appreciate it because they have to keep them away. You know why? Because the bullying is so bad in middle
Yeah, that's
school.
what I was gonna say. You
They
don't
will
wanna mingle them.
pound them. They will pound them.
Yeah.
So my son came home, and this is recent. He came home with the mark, right? He comes home with this mark. You can tell his demeanor is down, and he's kind of sad. And what's wrong? What happened? Every day I'm like, reporter, what happened at school today? You know, tell me what went on. It was good. But one day he came home, his demeanor was down. He had this mark. I asked him what happened. He said that boys were flicking rubber bands at him in gym. Immediately my blood boils. I email his AP real quick because everybody knows when you call a school, it doesn't go anywhere. So I email her because I know, and I also, wise tip here, keep documentation of everything. If you're going to talk to a teacher, email her. If you're going to talk to a principal, email, because you need that documentation if something ever turns up. Anyway, so I emailed. My son came home with the mark today. I documented everything in the message, and they basically said, it was right before the Christmas break, so they said we can't really do anything till we get back from Christmas break. So I get it. So 2 weeks pass, get to school, they call me, and only because I called them like 20 times. They finally call me back, and they say, okay, well, he didn't want to point out the kid. I said, of course he's not going to want to point out the kid, because he was scared. He's not going to say you did it, and especially in middle school.
Yeah,
and my son told me this. He said, I didn't want to tell who did it, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, the school took him down there in obvious setting and said, point the kid out.
Oh my God.
So he didn't want to do it. So you know what they told me? So we don't have proof that the kid did it. So there's nothing we can do. I said, the proof is on his head. The proof is the mark. The proof is the flicking of the rubber bands. That is the proof. They wouldn't do anything to the boys. They didn't have proof. They didn't have it on camera, whatever, what have you. But it's just like behaviors like that. Like, it's tough. These kids are around other children that think that they're weird, that think that, you know, they can just flick stuff and it's funny. And they have no idea what they're putting that kid through. So again, conversation at the home. These parents should be advocating and telling these children, you better not be flicking stuff at school. I always tell my kids, you don't put your hands on anybody.
Yeah.
You don't ever shove anybody, push anybody, talk back to anybody unless they've done something to you to where you feel threatened. But you don't just naturally walk into a room and say, oh, that kid's special, I'm going to chunk something at him.
Yeah.
That's hate. I always say that's hate in their heart. And they have hate in their home probably because they're not teaching it.
For sure.
They're not teaching love,
Because
kindness.
when I saw it in middle school for the first time, I was actually, I don't know what I was going to go do. And there was a back area that I thought was the 8th grade hall. The 8th grade hall in the very back had another back. And that's where
So they put him in the back of
the back. And so I was like, wait, where are those kids coming from? And then I was like, what? I was like, those are kids with disabilities. I was like, they come to my school. That's what's up. You know what I'm saying? I was like, where have they been? Why
Didn't
am
you say you went to prom with somebody?
I went to prom with, but he had Down syndrome.
I love her.
He was so adorable though.
I told you,
shout out to James.
She's the most caring
telling
KKK
you.
member I know.
To James. He knew every
MVP right here.
every football player in
Yes.
the NFL league. He knew it.
Yeah.
He knew when they started, when they retired.
That's another thing.
Man,
So
They
genius.
get
I used to
super-
be like, the whole conversation at our table was about, and I was just like, wow, James, I had no idea. But they
memory.
loved him on the foot. He was in my high school, so they loved him. And going back to this bullying thing, so when I was in that teacher's program, right, you go through age groups, right? So you can start in elementary, middle school, and high school. I knew I never wanted to teach high school, but I still wanted to see what that was like, right? So I knew all the guys on what do you call it, at my high school. Where I sat was this table, and then they sat in this middle table. And I remember this girl that I know, which she's an acquaintance now, right? But she was my friend. And I just remember her saying, oh, how can you work with them? I get so grossed out just looking at
So
them.
she has hate in her heart.
And I was just like,
Yeah.
I just looked at her and I just said, you think you're just better than everybody or what? I
And
was
people
like,
really do. And people really do. And
And
that's
so I just got so pissed, and then I just like went and sat at the table with them, and I was like, "What's up, guys?" You know, I just started talking to him. She's like, "I don't know how you do that. It's so disgusting."
So
Just
what
like-
about that person makes her
Just
feel
like
above?
she's like, well, because obviously some of them don't know how to eat, because
Self-hate,
they're
honey.
still.
So my mom.
Well, this is Down syndrome, though.
she
It's a little
worked-
bit
yeah,
different
it's
than
a little
autism.
different,
Okay,
yeah.
so it's not the same
But
thing. I
sometimes,
get it.
and what we're seeing a lot now is it's autism and Down syndrome and ADHD. Like, it's all formed. My son has autism and ADHD. So
Yeah.
not only am I like dealing with the autism lifestyle, but now I got this ADHD where he's just off the walls all the time, bouncy, right? But my mom works with children that can't walk, that can't talk, that are just like their muscles are so weak that they can't feed themselves. They're drooling. They have autism. They have all these impulsivities, and they can't control it. So and I can get and the way that girl felt, there's adults that feel that way because they can't keep teachers in that room. Teachers get in there, and she says it. She's like, they get grossed out, and they want to quit, and they want to leave, and they don't want to go back. Yeah. So now you got all these teachers that are constantly rotating. My son has never had the same teacher for 2 years in a row since he's been in school. Yeah. Teachers quit every single year.
Yeah. This high school teacher was just very dedicated. I'll tell her that.
I mean, do you get the proper training to deal with that type of stuff?
And I don't blame the teachers either.
It's hard.
Sometimes they're just regular teachers who they didn't have a teacher for special ed and they put them in there.
Or what you have going on is now, especially like in the age group, what you're about to see when you do get to middle school and high school, and it's going to be a part of your art, you start to see what they call, gentrification, where they start to put the child in regular classes, which sounds great, right? But when your son gets into that classroom, the teacher doesn't know how to deal with your kid. Yeah. So what the teacher does is put your kid to the back, deal with her 38 kids that she has and she's trying to function with, and your kid goes to the back.
Yeah, he's got 11 kids in his class, and that's one of the reasons why we were not doing public school.
Yeah. But these teachers don't have the tools. And I have a best friend that's a teacher, and she tells me all the time because she knows my story and she knows Jamin and everything. And she's like, I have a kid like Jamin that comes into my classroom, but I don't know how to deal. I don't know what to do. They didn't train me for this.
Are there really 28 kids or 38? Did you say 38?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's 28.
When you get to high
32
school.
32 is the limit. I don't know I don't know if there's 32 now, but I know it was 32 at one point.
The bigger the school, so we're in Klein. Our schools are like colleges. So yeah, he's in a room full of kids.
Big ass class.
Yeah, there.
Imagine that.
How can you meet all those kids?
You can't.
Because he's not the only. Maybe he's the only one with autism, but there's a lot of kids that have other.
They do give them a shadow.
Okay,
but sometimes, I was like, where was the shadow when these kids were flicking something at his head? So you can't always imagine that they're right there. You know what I'm saying? They probably go with them and then take off to like the bathroom or a coffee break or something.
Going back to how they're all so different, right? So one of the girls in the high school class that I had or whatever, she, for some reason, was a genius in English. So it was the only class that she would have regular English class with.
Okay.
She was in my class, which I had no idea she was in the special ed program, because I'd only see her in English class, right? It wasn't until I joined the teacher program that I saw that she was in there. And I was like, what? I'm so confused here. And I was like, but English was her thing. Reading was her thing, which is odd because a lot of kids struggle with the reading part, right? Yeah. Well, we were in class one day, and because when I got into the program, now we knew each other, so we were cool. So we were in a row like this. Imagine she always sat in the front, right? And so I was like a couple of rows back. There's this boy that always messed with her. And I used to always be like, why does he fucking mess with her, man? Like,
because he has hate in his heart.
And I used to be like, so when she would get mad, I said, he has a crush on you. So that guy used to hate me because I used to say he had a crush on her, right? Because I was, why are you messing with her, right? Y'all, she got so pissed off one day. Y'all are not going to believe what she did when I tell you.
Book.
No, worse. She got him even better.
Stabbed him with a knife.
No, wait till you hear this.
Stop bringing up your old trauma.
Listen. Y'all, she was on her period. Ooh. She pulls out her pad.
I'm here for it.
And slaps the shit out of him with the bloody plaid.
That's right.
I swear to you, all of us.
In shock.
I got up and I said,
I'm going to send Aiden to school with a bloody pad.
Like, no. I'm like yelling, no. And then the teacher did not know what to do.
Who does?
We were reading. So you know how you have to do like your reading? And so we were reading, and the teacher she just stood there, and I just looked at her. The teacher that was in charge of the special ed department was Mrs. Green. So I'm like, I just go to teacher. I was like, I work with Miss Green. I was like, I will be right back. And I just grabbed her by the hand and I walked out of the class with her. And I said, you can't do that. I was tired of him. And I was tired of him.
You know what?
And I got it.
But did he mess with her after that?
Hell no.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was a big deal. I mean, this guy was made fun of afterwards because, he got what he deserved,
Bloody cheeks.
Trust me. And he never messed with her again. He didn't even sit by her anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Cheeks.
Didn't sit by her. And it was when I went and I took her down to where the teacher, Miss Green, was. She was just, I just told her what happened. And she goes, she was just going to be a principal issue. So she goes, go ahead and just walk with her to the restroom first. She goes, and then take her to what do you call it? To the principal's office, because that's what's going to happen. She had no idea what she had done wrong, which I got, right? Because she was defending herself, like you said, and she was over it, right?
Yeah.
And to her also, you want to know why she wasn't even mad that he kept flicking her hair? You know what she was mad about? That he was disturbing her reading time.
Yep.
Oh, she was so done with him disturbing her reading time.
She did not. It wasn't that
she's
he
in her
was
zone, and their zone is their zone.
It was her
get them out of
reading
it.
time.
Did she get in trouble?
Not really. You can't. I mean, they tried to explain to her why that's one, unsanitary, and then two, why that's not possible. So she wasn't allowed to go, because it's still a privilege for you to kind of go to the class, right? Because technically they can. So she was just punished for like two classes. She couldn't go to two.
That's
two
crazy.
classes.
Because isn't spitting on somebody assault? Like if an adult spits on an adult, that's assault.
We're talking about 97, though.
No, I know, but like imagine that now. Like,
God,
yeah.
parents would put a lawsuit.
This would be totally different right now. But whenever they asked her why she did it, she said, "I was tired of him messing with my reading time."
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be him messing with her, always doing
Picking
her
on
hair,
her, yep.
picking on her. I was so confused. I was like, wait, so you're not mad that he kept pushing you and shoving you? It was, listen, this is my reading time. And I guess, then it makes you wonder, like, was reading time not happening at home? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Is that just part of the one thing that they're about?
That's her escape.
That's her escape, and it's an impulsivity to get it done. It's kind of like our OCD when you kind of mop the house. You need to mop all the rooms and all that. They need to get all the way. They need to feel content. They need to feel that they did it all the way through the way they wanted to without any distractions or disruptions.
Yeah.
So when your son is in his zone, if he's doing something, just let him do it. And that's where a lot of these tantrums happen when you're at Walmart and at Target and at the stores, when you're trying to pull them away from something that they're just so into.
Yeah.
Then you see the meltdown, and then you have the parents like, what's going on with that kid? I would slap my kid if he ever did that. But they're just, I'm taking them out of his world right now, and he's really hating me for it. So you just got to let it happen.
And that was kind of one of the issues with Aiden before we pulled him, was that he would notice that, or the teacher would notice that when it was time to transition to something new,
they don't do good
they
with
were
transition.
Going to stop using the blocks, and they're going to start using something else. That's when he would.
They don't do good with they don't do good with new environments. That's another thing. Like, so whenever they always ask you to, like, whenever you've committed to a program or a teacher or something, when they're starting to show different behaviors at school, they always ask you, did something change at home? What's going on? Whenever we've had big changes going on in our home, my son immediately, he just starts messing up in school. He can't deal with it. He can't function. He takes it all there, and he's out of his world. He's out of his element. It's very, very important. It's vital to keep them in structure and schedule. If you have to, like, I laminate a schedule at home, especially during lockdown, because I was going crazy and I couldn't figure out what was wrong, and it was the structure. So he told me what his schedule was at school, and we mimicked it completely, like snack time, lunchtime, reading time, outside time. We mimicked his schedule, and he was good after that.
You are amazing.
Yeah, she really is. She's a great, just everything, even from talking about his journey on social media, all his, like, accomplishments, you're always so proud of him. And I think that's a big deal, because a lot of parents, like you said, are embarrassed, or a lot of parents don't want for other people to know that their kid has autism, or you know what I'm saying? They don't go out with them on. I knew a parent whose child would stay behind when they would do their family trips, because they didn't want to mess with that. They have a struggle.
It's too stressful.
Yeah, it's too stressful.
And you know what, though? Like, I will say, we didn't leave him behind, but what we did is that when he was giving us the most trouble, it was during his 5 to maybe even 4 to like 8 years, we stayed home. We didn't go anywhere. We didn't go to family gatherings. We did not go to restaurants. We did not go to public outings. We did not go to the movies. Yeah. We didn't do anything, because it was just so traumatic to have stairs, to have. Yep. So, true story, real quick. We go eat one time. Somehow, some way, my mother-in-law pulled us out of the house and was like, "It's your birthday. You need to go out to eat at least." And I was like, "I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to deal with it." She's like, "You just need to go eat." We go to this place called Willie's. They have an outside patio where they have this little sand pit.
Slick Willie's?
Not Slick Willie's. That's the pool tables. I remember. Shout out to Slick Willie's. I spent a lot of time back in the day there. But it was Willie's. It's just like, this little sand pit. You get to eat outside. So she's thinking like, oh, you eat, he plays, you're good. We get there, we order. He's in the sand pit. You know, other children start to come, so I'm kind of just like watching him. But I'm a couple tables back, so I'm just trying, you know, keeping my distance, but also watching him. And I noticed that this little girl keeps building the sandcastle, and he keeps just kind of pounding on it. So my heart's you get very like paranoid, right? You get very paranoid.
But you're just hyper aware.
Yeah, but I don't think
because you know something bad.
I know something's about to happen because he did it 3 times, literally on my way to go ahead and pull him from the sand pit. This man just kind of like peeks out and he like look. We make eye contact and he does like you can't see me on the podcast, but he basically tells me to come here with his finger. Like I'm in trouble by the principal. Like get over here. My husband was getting food, so it was just me. It was like me and this man, right? So I go over there and he's like, "What's wrong with your son?" Like almost like so annoyed by him. Like what is wrong with your son? And I knew what he was complaining about. I said, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't think he's like, he's intentionally messing up that girl's creations.
Yeah.
And I was like,
was that her dad?
No. It was a stranger.
Then he needed to hush.
It was a stranger who was peering in, just watching.
Quit dipping and dapping.
And then I was like, well, why are you in the sand pit with your date? Why don't you take her to the bar? Like, why would you bring her to the sand pit?
You should be buying her a drink.
Exactly. She was right there with him.
And rubbing on her leg.
Why would you bring your date to the sand pit? Anyway, so, again, in my
They can't make it to the beach.
Yeah, right. Here, baby, I'm gonna give you all of it. So again, in my apologetic phase, I immediately start apologizing. I'm so sorry. I start crying. I'm so sorry.
This is your birthday?
This is my birthday.
Oh my God.
I never go anywhere because of this. I'm so sorry. Like I'm just like I just didn't even know how to get it out. I think I had a breakdown right there because I was like, this is why I don't go anywhere. My husband comes with the food, sees what's going on, puts the food down, and I just see him like do one of those like gangster like you and me parking lot right now, and I was like, oh my God, like it went from like 0 to 100. I was like, we're about to fight. So whenever I just let my husband deal. I was like, well, God, he's about to go to jail, I guess, whatever. Let me just get my kid and get situated. And I see him in the parking lot, and I just see my husband like, you know, and then you see the man kind of retreat, like kind of.
Yeah.
And my husband comes back, he's all furious. I'm like, what happened? He's like, I told my kid has autism, and how dare you? Like, you don't even know what we're going through. I mean, he just unleashed on this man. This poor man. Actually, I felt bad for him. I was like,
so
oh
he got angry and you cried.
Yeah, but
see how we internalize
typical woman. Typical.
No, but now kidding. I'm like a beast. Like, I wish you would tell me to come here. I'm about to break it down. Let me tell you, because I didn't know how to break it down to people back then. I did, and I think that's why I'm so passionate about it now. Is because now I have the knowledge, I have the experience, and I've lived it for 10 years of my life.
Had those breakdowns.
I've had those breakdowns, and I'm not going to do it anymore.
How long did it take you to get to that point?
I was only a year into it with
now,
that,
right?
So he's 12 about 10 years.
Oh wow!
Yeah, about 10 years it took me to build this skin and this wall with people. Like, you know, you're not gonna make me feel bad because at the end of the day, you get to go home with your little healthy child. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to like sound mean, but when they try to judge me for what I go through, like you have no idea what
your
it's like.
Your child does not have autism. Mind your business.
But it's not like you have no idea what it's like to sit there every single day and watch your kid go outside and be ignored, be bullied, come home with marks, crying, has 0 friends, has 0 girlfriends, always talks about the day a girl might like him. I mean, these are hard things to deal with your child. Yeah. And then you want to sit there and judge me and be like, what's wrong with your kid? You have no idea, you know? So
that's intense.
Whenever so stupid,
take me and Mariswole with you wherever you go.
Yeah. Whenever have you watched that show on Netflix?
She don't need more
Spectrum?
kids around her, Marissa.
I know. I want to save all of them.
She does. Right now, save them all.
You know the Spectrum show. Have you guys seen that?
Love on the Spectrum.
It's kids on the spectrum who meet and the whole time I'm just
and
like
they fall in love
and I'm crying and
they
like,
date.
There's that one.
Why do you want to watch this? It's like these are good cries. They're not cries of like I'm so sad. You don't understand. I said how much it takes for them to be like social like
Girl,
that. You have
you're gonna mess up your eyelashes. Hold the tears back. Hold them back.
These are good. I'm going tomorrow.
Those look new. Those look new.
No, I put a mascara on them so Marissa would make fun of me like she did the other day.
Just kidding. And then,
but it does. It takes a lot of time.
Amen.
And parents and other people. And so this podcast specifically today, I just want to notate this. This is not just for parents that have kids with autism. This is for everybody because like I said when I posted this, I kind of feel like the puzzle, right? Our symbol is the puzzle for autism. That's like the symbolic piece like that represents autism. I feel like that piece is so just like it means so many things to me, but I feel like that puzzle piece means the other person on the other side because they are the missing piece. If we could just get everybody to understand autism, we wouldn't have so many issues. And you're talking about like on a social level.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then maybe they wouldn't be in a corner on 2 rows down inside the school where nobody sees them. Maybe they wouldn't have to be isolated.
Yeah.
Maybe, and I posted this on my Instagram and I got a lot of feedback on this. Why do we spend our whole life training and paying for therapy to help our kids socialize when the outside doesn't have to do a damn thing and socialize back?
Yeah, that's true.
Why don't we help the other kids who aren't on the spectrum understand to socialize with our children? But why do we have to go and pay thousands? We just talked about this. Thousands of dollars to train our kids to fit and blend in when the outside doesn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Except push them back out.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of it, again, goes back to the home.
In the home.
Yeah, it's asking too much of some parents. We all know those parents are like, man, you're a bad parent.
I feel
because you know what, they were pieces of shit, and then they teach their kids to just be the same way, and it's just
exactly.
But if you're gonna be a parent, the least you can do is show some love, right? Teach your kid about love.
That's all you
That's asking a lot of some people.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Because people have babies that don't love themselves, and then they just kind of they teach their kids the same thing, and so
it's cyclical. Yeah,
because I just always think
it really
like,
is.
If you're just gonna be a shitty parent, why did you get pregnant? Like, why did you have a kid? Right? Because technically,
everybody needs a license to drive. Nobody needs a license to make a baby.
I love that. I love that phrase.
Ooh,
I've heard that.
Because
Parenthood, 1990 film. Watch it.
Hey. Oh yeah,
Keanu Reeves.
shout out Keanu Reeves.
Yes,
right?
smart.
It's old school. Because what I always feel like is, I always feel like, okay, so you're gonna have a child, right? No one had a perfect life growing up, right? So usually you want to do. You want to, whatever happened in your household, you want to make it better for your children, right? Even if it was good, there's always something, because no parent is perfect, right? So you just want to be a little bit better than what your parents were, right? So that's one thing. It's like I tell you, Marissa, all the time, I don't want to work as much as my parents did. My parents were gone. I raised myself because immigrants' parents, what did they have to do? They had to work, right?
Yeah.
Work.
Exactly. So I was by myself a lot of the time. So one of my biggest things that I was like, what do you call it? Rant to Marissa is like, I just don't want my kids to always be with my babysitter, right? Which is why I started this new thing where she doesn't come in on Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? And so I make the most of it on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So whatever work I got to get done has to happen on those days,
Right? Yeah.
Because I just felt like if we don't take the time to really be present with your child, we are going to allow TV, social media, anybody else is going to start raising your child versus you trying to be the first to be their influence, like you said. So for me, it's very important. So for me, I never wanted for Penny to see someone, obviously because I'm also an interpreter, but for me, it was very important that she learned sign language. Nobody understood why that was it. People teach it to their kids because they want them to just be able to communicate. And after they're done,
And
after
it's
a year old.
communication period, so why not? You know?
So for me, what I've learned that it's taught Penny to do is when I don't understand what she's verbally saying, she acts it out, which is amazing. Because she's trying to talk to you. She knows that you're not verbally, I'm not understanding her word. So she'll tell me, like she was asking for a knife and she says, cuchillo, right? But she wasn't saying it right. I was like, what? She goes, and I was like, oh, cuchillo, got it. I know what you want now.
In the house.
Yeah. So you see what I'm saying? So I know that me signing to her has taught her to try to find a way to communicate with me when she's not able to.
But also you leveling up as a mom and figuring that out. Like, not only am I going to teach my daughter English and Spanish, now I'm going to do sign language on top of that. Communication is key in this world. And that's where we have failed as a society, is that we don't know how to communicate. And that's why 2020, the world broke apart, because all of a sudden people tried to communicate, didn't have the tools to communicate, and communicated wrong.
I still tell my parents that to this day. Like, hey, can you do better communicating with me? I'm 30 now. Do better.
Please
You
do.
know, and on top of that, I just want to say, you know, in 2020, everybody became a medical expert. Everybody became a political expert. But, like, why aren't we becoming an expert when it comes to mental health and mental
and
behaviors?
other people.
And difference? Like, why aren't we becoming experts on that note?
Even mental health, man, people don't know how to deal with that either.
And this is a part of mental health, by the way. This is a part of mental health. So you're talking about somebody's brain that functions different from yours. So, like, why are we giving them such a hard time about it? You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not.
So true.
That's a whole other thing. But I'm telling. I could go on.
But they are little geniuses, and one thing I learned about Aiden is like, so he's always been like super fixated on cars. Like it's
Oh,
just,
our sons need to meet them. My son is a Hot Wheels fanatic.
dude, like when I told him, I told you earlier, I was like, okay, we're gonna see Penny, and I want you to play with her. If she wants to play with you, play with her.
Is that why
he
he's in that
doesn't.
car?
He's not a very social child. And so he goes, Penny with the Lexus. I'm like, yes, Penny with the Lexus, because
That's her new name, girl.
he wants to always touch the emblem.
Yeah.
Like of every car, and I have to tell him, Aiden, get away from their car. You don't know those people, because he's like, he wants to immediately go touch it. And we were at the Galleria, and I didn't know that they had the Tesla store in there. It had been so long since I had been there, and so we went in there, and they had like 4 cars that they had in the little showroom.
Right.
He went to each one, sat in the driver's side, touched it
Yeah.
on the steering wheel, and got out.
Yeah.
And then went to the other one, touched it on the steering wheel, and got
Then
out.
I do that.
You know, and I'm just like, he's so
this can
funny.
this can be a form of stimming.
Yeah.
Forming from stimulation, right? And they all have their own
Yep.
fixations, like you said. So my son is cars and Hot Wheels. So
Yeah.
he honestly, you guys, has a bin probably like 1,000, maybe 1,500 Hot Wheels. Like, and we've been buying Hot Wheels from him since he was maybe 2 or 3. Every time I go to the store, he grabs a Hot Wheel. For his birthday, he'd be the best person to buy a gift for. You just gotta buy him a Hot Wheel. He's good.
And then he's good.
He got any Fast and the Furious ones he's not playing with?
Everything.
Yeah?
He has everything, but that's his thing, Hot Wheels. And honestly, like, if he's acting up, all you gotta say, I'm gonna take them Hot Wheels away, and he's just on his best
like,
behavior.
oh, no, I will not. Yeah,
And
that's
it could be
crazy.
anything. I mean, these kids, I have a friend where her daughter's obsessed with mini little figurines. That's her thing, you know, and I have other friends that their daughters or sons are obsessed with, you know, trinkets, socks, whatever. They have their obsession, and that's just what it calms them. You know what I mean?
It does.
It really, really does. So.
It does.
Yeah, because the one kid I think I told you about, Marissa, was this was first grade, and so when which it was reading time, right? He'd like to sit in the corner, and he would peel the carpet off. And that was his thing. So once he got a good amount of string, it was
Destruction.
the whole time.
Destruction.
So she's reading and she's doing this. So he messed up so many carpets at the school to where what they did was this, and I thought this was very nice of the school to do, right? Was they took a whole piece off, right? And they made a square just for him.
That's amazing.
Versus
Him tearing up the carpet.
Dude,
I thought you were going to say they put them on a plastic square.
No. And so basically, when it was reading time, the teacher would pull it out, and they made a bunch of them because they took out, they had to rip off the whole carpet.
Yeah.
So they made a bunch of them. Anytime it was time for reading time, she'd pull one out, and Otto would sit right here, and she would, and the carpet would sit here, and he would just start. He's paying attention, but he would just start,
It's sensory
and
thing.
then he would just do it, and then he would go from there, and then she would just turn it to where when it was done, the corners were done where he was pulling the carpet, she'd have to pull a new one out.
Yeah.
So you see what I'm saying? So it was like I thought it was amazing that they
those
that
are the
they did that.
stages of awareness, right? Like I said, aware that the child obviously has something, autism, sensory and behavioral issues, but also acknowledging and accepting. So they're more of like, okay, so let's do this to replace that behavior. And that's ABA. They're replacing the behavior by a more dedicated one that doesn't have any issues or not cause any problems. You know, and imagine a world where everybody did that, you know?
Easy.
Can you imagine?
Easy.
Just replacing the trigger or the behavior in another form.
When I had my job placement agency, at one point we started taking kids with disabilities, not just deaf. Because I used to only work with the deaf and hard of hearing, finding work for them. And then there weren't enough agencies that found work with kids who had autism, Asperger's. That was the first time I had heard of that, and I was already a little
form
bit.
It was
autism.
Asperger's first, right?
Yes.
It's the
Now
highest
just-
form of autism. So honestly, you
wouldn't
wouldn't even be
know.
able to tell. You don't know.
The guy that I worked with was a substitute teacher.
Wow.
So that's how high functioning he was.
Yeah.
So here's why he never made it. Was because there was still a part of his brain that was very immature and childlike. And what would end up happening is when it was time for recess, guess who was over there playing with the kids?
He was.
The substitute teacher.
Yeah.
And so that became an issue. So we would try to find work for him, and it was really hard because he really enjoyed teaching.
Yeah.
Y'all, he really enjoyed teaching. He didn't want to go work at HEB, which is the job that we had found him as a sacker. And to him,
But
that
again,
felt,
like what in society says or regulates and says he can't play with the children. I mean, we automatically think the worst and think, oh my God, he's going to do something that he shouldn't do.
He's the
But
one
why
that will
wouldn't
never
you
lay a
want-
hand on a
but
kid.
What I'm
Honestly,
saying is like,
I would be okay with the teacher.
The teacher, great. Thank you, teacher.
For being involved.
Because he's playing with them. And I mean,
Engaging.
he'd round them up when time was up because you hear the bell. So it wasn't like he was staying outside with them.
But
the
society
school had the
standards
problem
was like,
with
that doesn't
him
look
playing.
good for us. So
Exactly.
let's go put him at an unnecessary job like HEB where he's going to waste his life. And
he had an associate's degree, so he was able to be a substitute teacher. He was very high functioning. I
Yeah.
mean, and his dad passed away while he was my client, and I remember I went to go meet with him. He was like, well, he's like, I'm going to have to learn how to drive now because they hadn't let him learn how to drive yet. Right. So he's like, I'm going to have to learn how to drive. And he's like, and I'm going to have to step up now because my dad passed away. He was the oldest. So he was like, I'm going to have to step up now. And I thought, wow. I was like, okay, so what does that mean? He's like, well, looks like I'm going to have to run my dad's company now.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like,
Oh, my God.
well, what happened with you teaching? I know you were really upset. He's like, I don't want to work at HEB. So it was amazing to me that he knew HEB is not my damn job.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's like, this is not, I'm
And more
not
power to him for
dumb. You know what I'm saying?
taking
It's
that
like,
step
yeah,
and
he's like,
saying that.
I'm not an idiot. I know what I'm doing. It was just certain parts. His social skills were also not the best with adults, but you put him with children and his social skills were amazing.
See, I believe that because my son is 12 going on 13, but he flourishes with younger kids.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is. He doesn't really socialize too well with the middle school kids, but if he met your son or anybody 5, 6, 7, 8, he's like all in.
He's at home.
He's good. And
Yeah.
I feel like because I tell people all the time, and this is another part of my description with him, okay, he is 12, he's 13, he's taller than I am, he has a voice like a man, but his intellectually, his brain, he's only developed to maybe the age of 8, so he does better.
Emotionally, that's where he's at.
Emotionally, that's where he's at, and he does better on that level with those peers. But you put him in a room with a bunch of middle school kids, and he's completely like overwhelmed.
He shuts down. It's too much.
You know, and so they actually have a gym. It's called oh my gosh, something with the it's rock climbing. I can't think of it right now. Something with the spectrum.
Rock Spectrum?
We rock the spectrum. That's where I took Penny there. I took her there.
And I love it because it's catered to the kids on the spectrum, but it's also catered to the public. One time I did go, and I think this was the last, me and my friends went because my friend Roxanne, shout out to Roxanne Riva, she has her daughter that's also on the spectrum. She falls in that line with me where we just don't know where to take our kids because it's just too much.
Yeah.
We took them there. We're sitting in the lobby, you know, our kids go for it, you know, we're paying or whatever. And this lady in front of me, she goes, these kids are too big to be in here. And she asked the lady, like, how old, what's the age limit? Because obviously her kids weren't on the spectrum. You could just tell her off the back. She was just having a mommy date, which is good, whatever. But don't come in here and judge. This is not your place to judge.
Yeah.
She tells the lady, well, what's the age limit in here? And the lady says, oh, up to 12, 13. And she goes, that is way too big for these kids to be in here. I said, well, this place, and I spoke up right away. I was like, this place is made for kids on the spectrum. So, and I had to break it down. And she got quiet and she walked out. You could tell she wasn't happy.
They have a quiet room. They have everything for a reason.
Exactly. But like, again, why would, like, let us have a space at least. Like, dang, we come all the way out here just to be in peace and quiet, and then now you're sitting here judging because my child's taller or bigger or heavier or a little bit louder, you know. I mean, but like, I feel like, again, if we just raise awareness, and if that lady's listening right now, this is just our life. We go through life just trying to figure out where, again, the puzzle piece. I know they're symbolic.
Yeah.
Where do we piece them in? Where do they fit in? They really don't fit in anywhere. Yeah. And so we're trying to do our best to try to help them transition. And here you are, just roadblock, judgment, opinion. Stop it already.
That's my favorite place. Penny's been going there since she was a year.
I love it.
She even had a birthday party there.
Yes.
And you didn't really know that, did you?
I just really liked.
They created it because of that
Yeah,
situation.
I like the openness, and I like. I always say I'm a bad parent because I don't buy Penny dolls, right?
Yeah.
And so I just think they're. Even though I had a gazillion of them growing
Your
up,
favorite thing is Barbie.
I know, but I don't buy her. As I'm saying, go check to see if Penny has a Barbie.
I saw your video the other day about the sexy doll that she had.
That was so funny.
I was like, why am I jealous of this doll?
That's LOL doll. My she's got the little mini ones, but I don't really have like a lot of all the dolls that my mom's bought them for her. My sisters bought them for them. I've never, as a parent, when she was a baby, I never bought her a toy that was a stuffed animal, and she got a bunch of them from people, which is fine. Mine were always learning things, so I needed to make sure if I bought her this rolling thing, I wanted her to know that this needs to go like this, so it was like,
So is that my candle?
No, this one's actually mine.
I got some other one. I
gotta smell it. Sorry.
He was supposed to bring me Hawaiian
His
dreams.
twins make them.
Yeah, my 6-year-old just actually launched
Started
today.
a little business.
Paint a tree in Sugarland.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I saw that.
She has the. Remember, I was telling you, I need to start doing markets. This is one of her markets.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Let's
So
do it.
the one lit right now is vanilla cupcake over there next to you, Marissa.
Yes,
On top of all that, wait, guys, I didn't even. Wait, y'all think that is a lot that she does all this for her child?
Potty break. Where can I send her for potty break?
She just goes in through this door right here. Through the back door. When you take her, Rob. She runs a vintage store, guys.
God, I love
Well,
you.
not by myself. Okay, so my partners and I, we shout out to Labels Vintage Streetwear. They are my mentors. They kind of just brought me in this whole lifestyle of like just business mode. And so they have a business off of Polk Street, off in the second ward where the banner is in front of Kroger's. They invited my husband and I to kind of join the team.
Oh, I've seen it.
Yeah.
It's a building.
She has a flea market.
like
It started
streetwear.
super small too.
Yeah.
She has like this what do you call it? Like this market thing where it started with breakdancing also.
So hip hop vintage flea market. My husband,
So that's
my partner,
yours?
B-Girl. No, well, my husband and I are resale folds. We bring the vintage into the market, and then my partner, Baby Girl, shout out to B Girl City, brings in the entertaining part with the hip hop, with the
It's
positive
amazing.
influence.
Oh my God.
MCs, graffiti artists, B-boys, B-girls, DJ, live music. I mean, it's a experience, and we've actually been on pause because of COVID and everything, but we're coming back April 18th.
Can you tell me what your Instagram is?
All of my
Tell
handles
everybody.
are on there.
Yeah.
Domesticated Photos, at Domesticated Photos. And that name started when I was a mom. So, and I kind of like it now because my husband's like, you're not domesticated anymore. But, you know, I was
Here
just
it
a mom
is.
living at home.
Yeah.
Just everyday life.
Oh my
I didn't have a car.
God.
I put my
Yes,
kids in the
Jesus.
stroller. We'd walk to the nearest donut store. I mean, I was just so like in the zone of being a mom. And then when my husband started the vintage business resale folds, I kind of just became management mode because I saw the income. I saw the and this is going to relate back to autism, I promise. I saw the
And even if it doesn't, it's okay. You
Yeah.
can
No,
have
it
your
will.
own thing.
We talk about everything on here, trust me.
But I saw the benefits from the business, obviously. But what this was actually his doing. This is what he said. He said, I want to build a business that I can pass down to my son because nobody else will hire him.
And that's kind of
And
our
I want him to
motivation,
own
too.
it, and I want him to be the boss, and I want people to look up to him because when we get so much love and support.
I love your husband.
We get so much love and support that when we bring him aboard with us, I love it. People are like, Jamin. They know Jamin. Everybody knows Jamin. We had an event this past Sunday, and he was passing out flyers for businesses and stores. People, they paid him. They gave my baby money and said, would you pass these flyers out for us?
Yeah.
He was passing out Sneaker Summit. He was passing out Bounce Back Houston.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
And he was engaged, and these people engaged with him. And you know why? Because they naturally have love for us. So they have love for our child. You know what I mean?
Of course.
And that's what I love about our community. And even in the hip hop scene, he's been exposed to breaking since. I mean, I've been taking him to jams since he was a baby. My
Because she's part of
used to
do breakdancing. That's how I
used
met
to
her.
Oh, wow.
She was an extra in my husband's video,
Yeah.
and then I didn't know she was her
So
son
you're
had
breakdancing
autism.
in the video?
So
Yes.
trying. I used to break. I used to actually really enjoy it, but I was never on the competitive level. Obviously,
Yeah. It was just for fun.
It was
Extra.
for fun. It was my escape, right?
Yeah.
And my husband and I met through it. And
So he was a breakdancer too.
he's a b-boy. He's in Habit Choral Crew. Yes, he's
Oh
old
my
school.
God.
And so we kind of just sesh together. Like that was our escape. We'd go in the living room. We'd go to the garage. We'd just do it together. You know. So
Y'all just dance together?
Yeah.
But you know what's even cooler is all their friends are together the same way.
Yeah.
And they're their own little community. They support each other like
family.
man, like
Yeah.
no one's business.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it's Moy's daughter who's also, right?
Moy Rivas and Roxanne Rivas, their daughter is also
spectrum. And he's talked about it also.
And his wife, Roxanne, is another girl. You need to go follow her. I'll give you her Instagram
what is
handle.
her?
She does Made Bright. Go look at MADE Bright, BRITE. She built a business revolving autism, because what happens is that she promotes her products through autism, and then the proceeds go back to her daughter's child, her classroom and things like that.
Is this her Made Bright?
That is not Made Bright. Let me call my lawyer. There's another Made Bright.
Is it MAID or MADE?
MADE Bright, Made Bright. So, and she's one of the first ones too that was openly speaking about autism, especially with their daughter. And so she kind of gave me that little bit of a push, because I was, I wasn't, and not that I was quiet, I just didn't know anything too much either. So she was starting to like really advocate and talk about it. And on, her daughter went through a little bit more than my son did. She had a lot of health issues, so she was constantly,
got it.
She was constantly in the hospital with her, and it was just one of those things where on the other end as a friend that I just looked up to her like, man, you are so strong. You are doing all of this, And then she built her business behind it. And of course her husband Moy thrives with Break Free, and they built this platform. So yeah, man, as a parent, you got to be able to create and build something for your child.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
Then somebody might be trying to put my son in HEB where he doesn't belong there.
Yes,
And instead I want to give him this. And I do tell my daughter, like, I'm building this business for you. She tells me she doesn't want it. I'm like, it's fashion.
That sounds like my sister when I used to, because my mom used to force me to go.
I take her to the markets. I take her to the shop. I take her. Mom, she's a part of it, but she says that she wants to help animals. So okay.
You have to,
I have to listen.
He's 9.
To
He's like, okay, that's cute.
Because my sister, I don't know, when I'd get mad because my mom would make me have to go help, right? And I'd be like, well, what are you gonna do when Mom dies?
Yeah.
She goes, I just want you to buy me out. I was like, no, Mom worked so hard for this. You have to do, you have to be a part of this. She goes, nope, I have zero desire to go work at a hair salon. I have zero desire
she doesn't have to work there, but she can still run it,
But she has no desire.
Yeah.
She just doesn't want to do it. And I get it. And it's not for everybody. But going back to she makes really cool stuff. I'll show you this Frida bag that I bought from her.
Oh,
it's a fanny pack.
So she literally cuts out.
She cuts and sews these things, bro.
One of ones, Made Bright.
Made Bright.
Oh, okay, sorry. Right.
Yeah.
One of ones.
And what's your shop?
I'm all over the place. Oh my God.
She's got the Betty Boop.
Go to my domesticated photos. I've tagged all my businesses.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
There's so many.
And
next thing you know,
go to all my accounts.
Yeah. Well, no, because when I saw her and I was like, there's another one? Okay, let me follow that one. I'm like,
yeah. Because when you branch, and you know this, when you create a passion and then it branches out into another passion and it branches out into another passion, and that's the code of a millionaire, right? You got like 10 businesses under your umbrella. And
you can never have too many hustles.
Yeah, exactly.
But Hip Hop Vintage Flea Market, because of my journey with Jamin, I always make sure in April that we do something to kind of raise awareness, and that we do have, we didn't get to really do it this year because of everything.
Yeah.
But,
yes.
When I got with her, the reason why we were doing this is because we were trying to raise money to pay for a class over at Break Free because of what Moy does and his involvement with his daughter and everything. He understands it, he gets it, and we were able to raise money for a child on the spectrum to go over there and have a free graffiti class for the whole semester. And his mom would text me all the time, like
that he just loves it so much.
He drew stuff that I was just, he did that. She's like, yes, I didn't even know he could draw. And he was like doing portraits of people. I mean, it was just like crazy, mind blowing. But you don't know until you give him a
mom
shot.
of any child, but especially with a kid on the spectrum, I want him to still participate in sports and do things like that. And we tried basketball because he's really, really good at basketball.
Yes.
I mean, he gets hyper focused on getting the ball.
Is he obsessed with the NBA and the players?
No, he's not. But he can shoot a fucking 3.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the craziest thing. He's so good and he's accurate every time. So we're like, well, let's put him in basketball. Okay. But when it came to like actually putting him in basketball, and we tried it twice,
it's not
playing with the kids, the lights,
that's not his
the
thing.
bell, he would take the ball and go play.
So I will tell you that there is a Special Olympics, right? And there is basketball.
Okay.
Is that new? To have basketball in Special Olympics?
Well, in our incline, I guess it was something that was new and we tried it. So I was on board because my son is also obsessed with basketball. Yeah. He's obsessed with the NBA. He knows all the player stats, game schedules.
That
and he
is
wakes up and is
amazing.
like Pistons are playing, oh
my God, I love it.
Yeah, the Rockets and the Spurs. It's all day.
Yeah.
We took him. He loved it, right? You fall in love. You're like, oh, my son is shooting. Like, he's shooting the ball.
He's
going
doing
back
his
and
thing.
forth. The kids you could tell all the kids are on their different levels, but it's all good. He's involved. He's engaged. Well, the coach was a competitive coach. And he wanted Jamin to play the way he wanted Jamin to play. And he wanted Jamin to make that shot. And guess what? Jamin didn't make it. So guess what? He sat on the bench. Yeah. And I just didn't understand. I was like, we've made it this far, and now I'm being another roadblock by the coach. Like, why are you here? And so and he couldn't even get his name right. His name is Jamond, like Raymond with the J, but he kept calling him Jamon. Jamon. And so guess what? My son didn't turn around.
He just wasn't the right coach.
He didn't know he was being called, so he would ignore him half of the plays because he doesn't know who Jamon is. And so then he would just sit him out for the rest of the game. After a couple of, I think 2 days or 2 practices, I finally just, my husband would, because we would take turns, and on the nights he was there, he'd be sending me pictures like, look at this guy. Like, he's not even trying.
I hate him.
Don't like this guy. And so I was like, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to go to the next practice, right? Yeah. And so I finally had enough, and they're in the middle of like a scrimmage or whatever, and he's off to the side, and they're about to put up the balls, and I make my way, and I'm ready. I'm ready to have this conversation. Like, I would really appreciate it if you can get his name right. His name is Jamond. And also, I just want to let you know that he doesn't know how to shoot a ball really well. I mean, he does now, actually. It's ironic. He's great at shooting. But at the time, he didn't. He was really, his motor skills really weak. I said he doesn't, but I would really appreciate it if you can encourage him, maybe. Like, give him another shot. Like, if he misses once, can you let him try again? Simple, right?
Yeah.
I've worked with kids with special needs. I already know what to do. You don't need to tell me what to do.
Wow.
I said, well, this is my son, and so I'm telling you what I feel like I need to tell you a girl I was ready, right?
Yes.
To understand my son. I deal with kids. They're not all the same.
That dude was power tripping.
You were about to break dance on his face.
Yeah. I was just like, I couldn't fathom. Like, how did you get here?
Oh my God.
How did you get here?
He knows somebody.
Yeah. So he was the coach had a favorite player. Guess what? That favorite player was a kid. Oh. No, well, the kid was good, right? Okay. He was good. He was very high functioning. Honestly, I was like, is he even autistic? I don't know about that. He made,
Steph Curry's son over there.
Right. He made all the shots. He did all the drills. He made it up and down the court. He was the guy. He was the one.
Yeah.
The coach and his dad like this, buddy, best friends, and that's where that story ended. So I think we had to just hide it because Jamin was happy. He didn't know, but he was happy. He was happy to go to practice. He was happy to shoot around. And on the very last game, I remember the coach didn't even talk to us at that point. He didn't like us. He knew that we were there to cause problems because I went to so many people around this guy. I was like, I'm just trying to figure out how to get you out. Yeah. Well, I guess he felt it, so he didn't talk to us. But at the last game, they were playing, and I even told, I was like, I know this is the last game. I know you're worried about winning, but at least let him play. So he let him play 1 minute. Well, they had like a timeout, and my husband goes down to the because he sees Jamin kind of just doing it by himself. So my husband goes down there. My husband starts shooting around with him. All the kids form a circle, and all the kids who hadn't been able to play started playing with my husband. He's literally shooting the ball. He shoots it. He misses it. So my husband's like, here, try again.
Who's cutting onions right now?
I know.
Who is cutting onions?
He makes it. And I mean, the kids are like, I made it. I mean, the joy in their face.
I've been having to fight these onions the whole time. The whole time.
I was afraid that was going to happen.
Those are hormones, ladies and gentlemen. Those are hormones.
I told Pete, I said, I am going to try my hardest this episode not to shed a tear. So 1, because it's on YouTube. Yeah. And then 2,
because I'm a G. I
don't know how to
because I'm Mariswole B.
I have to drink a lot of water.
These lashes are not for crying.
I was like,
Mama didn't raise no punk.
Oh my God. Because I told him, I was like, man,
the
emotion. Exactly.
I'm on the bleachers, and I'm just like, I'm their mom. Because they're like, I made it. And he's like high-fiving them. And I'm looking at the coach, and the coach is like trying to take my job. And I told my husband, I was like, you know what? You need to be a coach. You need to fill in for this guy because he obviously doesn't know what he's doing. But my husband had surgery, and now I'm hoping he'll be able to do it. But it's just about an adult or somebody else outside of your circle that gives you that go ahead, you just did that.
Yeah,
and that
it's
kid empowers them. That kick empowers them forever. If you went up to my son right now and gave him a high five, for the rest of the day, he's powered. He's good.
Oh, and we're gonna try golf now. So I reached out to the First Tee. A friend of mine had suggested it because her son has autism and he loves golfing. And then I kind of figured, well, maybe that would be something for him because he can focus on getting the ball in the hole.
And it's a one-on-one thing. There's no interaction.
Solo crew, girl. Yeah. He would be.
What
but
about
you got to be
jiu-jitsu,
7. So we're
like
waiting.
fighting?
So we put him in taekwondo.
Okay.
And I loved.
Well, that's too many people, though. No, like that's such a big class.
It is. It's a lot, but I loved it because he felt like he was a part of it, right? You know, when everybody's in line and doing the thing, and he's his push-ups, he's like doing just his pelvis. I'm trying not to
the Bob's Burgers gift.
Why is that how I do push-ups?
His arms don't move, just his, and I'm trying not to laugh. I'm like, hey, that's my kid. He doesn't see anything at home. I don't know where he learned that move from.
Oh my God, it just came natural, girl. It came natural.
But they call them the master. What do they call? They call him
Sensei?
Master.
Sensei, yeah.
The sensei was always like, Jamin, come here. Like he always.
And he talked with the sensei,
Yes,
sensei voice.
Come here.
Yeah.
And you do this. And you do this. And then on his banner was like, no bullies. Like, I loved it, you know? But then COVID hit again. And we had to take him out.
I'm so tired of COVID.
know, right?
And then we had to take him out.
Everything.
And then he just didn't want to go back. And so I didn't want to force him. He fell out of it. You know, he just wasn't into it anymore. But I do, if anybody is listening to this podcast that has a connection to either a YMCA or something that has involved with activities and sports, like, let's do something. Let's create something for these kids because... Even it's just the interaction that they're in love with. They just want and be involved. And even if your son just wants to play golf and doesn't care too much about the people,
that's why hamster starts. Why don't we just do it anyway? Why do we have to wait for the YMCA?
Well, I'm just saying, like, I would love to do something like that. And I'm
down to help. Let me know.
I want to create like a social gathering. Like I want to create so where all of the parents can unite. And the parents, not just us, but everybody.
And we can just let the kids go do crazy things. And
that's why I like We Rock the Spectrum because I kept telling Marissa this. I was like, come join me. I was like, because I take her there.
And Aiden asks for the gym every day.
Yes, but now he loves it. And so the number one reason why I loved it there was because I realized that everything that was in there was a learning thing.
Yep.
Like the baby. Well, the one I like going to the one in Sugarland. The one here closer to me on I-10 is good, but it's a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
But the one in Sugarland has a huge window where the sun comes in. And so it just kind of feels a little bit more. That's where I had her birthday party. I just feel like maybe just me. I don't know. Maybe I'm on the spectrum. I don't know. But I just feel like I feel
like I'm on the spectrum every day.
I feel like I need that. Like that sunlight makes me feel like I'm not. Yeah, I'm not out. I'm not outside. But I still feel the sunshine coming in, and they have like that one has like a little restaurant place. So so Penny will play and ask me what do I want to eat, and so it allows the imagination to go. When I saw the quiet room,
I love it.
I said, "What is a quiet room for?" She's like, "Well, there's some kids who can't do all this.
They get overstimulated.
This is too much for them. So they have a smaller room, and the smaller room just doesn't have as many toys as obviously the outside does. But this room allows them. It's darker in there also, and it allows them to still be active and do what they want to do, right? But in a smaller environment, not such a big environment. And I was just like, what? And then I saw that they would always have sell little bracelets from different organizations. And I just said, wait a minute.
Were you piecing everything together?
Yes, I was like, wait, have I been bringing my daughter this whole time to a spa? My girlfriend was the one that introduced me to that place. Her kids are not on the spectrum.
But that's okay because Penny is now exposed.
Yeah.
And she might meet a kid on the spectrum and she might love that kid and she might talk about that kid and then you have a reason to go back and take her to see. And guess what? Now that kid has a friend.
Yeah, I don't ever want, that's number one to me though. I don't want for her to ever look at a deaf person and be like, and why is he deaf or why isn't he signing, or look at somebody who's got Down syndrome or autism, whatever. I want her to know that this is normal. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. Where none of us are perfect, so get it together. And if I feel
like because we talk about it so much in our home that my daughter, she makes it obvious. Like if a midget walks by, she's like, she's the most beautiful person I've ever seen.
Oh, I love her. I love her.
sure that she knows they're different, and she's gonna, by God, I'm gonna compliment them.
Yes.
Or like if a boy walks by with like Down syndrome, she's like, he is so amazing. He's so cool, and I'm just like, look at you.
Oh my God.
She just,
you know what, Isaiah?
Right.
My oldest one, he's like, Mom, but why does Aiden have to wear that? Because right now he's on his construction vest kick.
Yeah.
And he's got this. We bought him 2 more top hats because he's got.
You bought him 2 more.
2 more, girl. So one's black and one's white.
I love it.
And he wears the top hats, and because what he does is he takes it off and then he swings it. He like
jazz hands,
like that, and then it spins around and then it lands, and that's what he keeps repeating. He keeps like taking it off. And I was like, oh my God, I guess I'm buying him those hats. Not because he wants them,
and that's another thing. As soon as you find out what your kid likes,
with the vest,
I'm going to invest all my fortune. Like, this is what he's doing. This is what he's growing in and doing great at. I'm going to just take my money, That's a whole other thing.
And he's like, why? But why does he have to wear that when we go there? I'm like, Isaiah,
let him.
Who cares? Who cares? Let him be.
Like that. Penny wanted to wear high heels with the dress the other day. It didn't match.
Yeah.
I was like, why do you have to wear the high heel? I'm like, but these, I was like, the heels don't match though. Can you wear the tennis shoes? Right? She's like, well, I don't want to wear the tennis shoes. I want to wear the high heels. And she put on her high heels, a bunch of bracelets and necklaces. So it was like, well, if that's what she wants to wear, then that's what she wants to wear, right?
Usually, yeah. But when Brooklyn wants to wear her Ugg boots to the park, I'm like, dude, you can't run in those. You're gonna break an ankle. Like,
and it's hot too right now. Yeah.
I love
funny.
it.
That's they don't like the heat. I don't know how your son does in the heat, but oh my God, field trips and stuff like that at schools, they're like,
I don't even know.
And you know what's crazy is, do they know why that even is?
It's sensory. Okay, so you're outside and you're sitting in the sun, you're breaking a sweat, but to them, they're overloaded with stimulation, so they're burning.
It's like the sun's right on their skin.
Yeah, they feel everything like 100 times more than we do. Noises, for example.
Yep.
I mean, we hear just like something fall, and it's normal to us. We're desensitized to noise. Yeah. It's like a pin drop on the floor, and it's like sudden movement.
Yep.
Like, he's always like, "What's that?" You think my house is haunted because he's always like, "What's that? What was that? I'm like, I didn't hear anything, but we're just so desensitized to everything. Yeah. And they're not.
It's so true.
Talking about sensory. So my girlfriend sent Penny a gift for Christmas. It's a sensory box.
Okay.
The mom makes them. And the reason she created them, she doesn't really get in detail, but she just found that her child was having some kind of issues. And all it is, y'all, is Play-Doh.
Inside a balloon or something?
No, it's actually just in a jar, but it's Play-Doh. It's a newer kind of slime. What is it? It's like doughy, but it's not.
Is it kinetic sand?
Is it like clay?
I feel like I know what you mean.
It's something else that it's.
It sounds kind of like that.
Kinetic sand?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Stuff's fun.
I loved them so much for Penny because it has little balls in there. Mm-hmm. It has shapes. It has dolls.
Marissa's a child.
I'm sorry.
Oh my God. Marissa's
sorry.
Mini balls.
Mini balls.
It has a bunch of stuff. And I looked at it and at first I was like, I get it. This is a sensory box. Yeah. Each texture is super different. Mm-hmm. So I had to go on her website to see.
They're called all that stuff. It has a name. It's called fidgets.
I love you.
Oh, yeah, fidgets.
Fidgets.
Yeah.
And I always thought that fidgets were for people with sensory, excluding myself, right? I've never been into fidgets, but recently my daughter's been getting into fidgets. So I'm like, okay, we're on the other side now where somebody off the spectrum is feeling it. She's always like, Mom, I need this new fidget. We go to the mall. There's fidgets. She's all obsessed, right? So she makes me walk up to this booth and this guy selling fidgets. And she's like, just try it. And it's, have you ever seen those rubber ice trays? That you can
poke. Oh yeah,
mm-hmm. It's that, but it's like little circles, and you just poke them, and then you poke them back, and then you poke them. And
okay.
That's oddly satisfying.
And so
I need that.
I didn't even
right now just did this little.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like I'm autistic. So I do feel like I have those tendencies, girl.
I think we all have it
because I hate people and I need fidgets.
So
that's trauma.
I'm standing there and I'm just doing this, and she's like, "Doesn't it feel?" And my husband's like, "Get one." He liked it. So I'm like, I think we're into fidgets.
We're all going to have one.
Did you ever get a fidget spinner? Did you ever do one of those?
We sold them. Girl, I'm boy, sorry.
Well, I mean, I'll take either one. That's cool.
No, we went to like Huntsville and bought them in bulk, and we came back and sold them out.
That is amazing.
Yeah, but that's when that was like trending.
A thing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So fidgets are trending right now. And so it's ironic that my son is the only one in the house that doesn't care for fidgets, but we like fidgets. So I'm
that is amazing.
He's looking at y'all like, what's wrong with y'all?
Like, why are y'all pressing on all that stuff? But It's a sensory. I think we all have sensory things. We just don't realize it. But for them, they do get it like 100 times more.
Yeah.
And they get backlash for it.
I can't find her name
they
in
get
there.
backlash for it for real.
And that's the only, and look, again, we just found out about a year and some change ago, and so we're still kind of learning. And I'm not gonna lie, I haven't gone on the internet and researched anything, because for me, I'm just like,
well, going on the internet 10 years ago when I did was better than now. I can't go on the internet because it's too much information, and then I'm literally like, I'm one of those, like, I'm reading and I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? And I gotta break it down that word, and then I gotta go, and then I find myself in a rabbit hole because now I've just diagnosed him with like 10 other different tendencies, and I'm like,
girl.
oh my God, is he a sociopath? Like, what does this mean? You know, I'm just in a rabbit hole.
I'm
of
just
stuff.
like, I guess my thinking is like, we're just gonna deal with it, man.
We are.
Whatever. We're gonna make it happen. We're gonna make it work.
And We Rock the Spectrum too also had like a little free evaluation the other day. They had. I told her, I said, come. I said, they had the women's.
You need to be
university?
a spokesperson for this Rock the
for
Spectrum.
everything.
I don't know if she has room on the list anymore.
But she knows so much about this. I want to go to this Rock the Spectrum. I'm from
So I
Spring.
called her. I'm like, hey, so can you bring Aiden? I said, because they're having this thing right now because they needed to finish their college credits, right?
Yeah.
I said, and so they're working with them one-on-one. I said, I think it'd be great. Maybe you could find help and other resources. I said, because you know what I'm saying? She's so new to it, you know?
Yeah.
And things have changed from when I was going to school doing this to 2021. I mean, we're talking about 97, 98, 99, 2000, you know what I'm saying? Or 98, 99, 2000, 3 years that I was in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then whenever I opened my agency, when I started working with kids with Asperger's and autism, it was also very different because DARS has a little bit more, so if they're on the higher spectrum, they'll assign them to you. If they're on the lower spectrum, they also give them to another agency who has all these certifications to work with them.
Yeah.
So that was another thing. I was like, man, I wish I would have had all the certifications
we're
for
in
it.
2021 and there's still limited resources for parents, for teachers, for just society.
So you need to start a podcast and a YouTube channel.
Yeah. Well,
That's a good-
when she
look
asked
at
me
Rob already
when she asked me to
thinking.
do this, I was like, go her. She doesn't even have a child on the spectrum, but she's interested. And then when she told me she had friends and stuff like that, it takes one person just to reach out and say, I think we should do this, because I'm always down to do it, but I don't like to step on toes or invade people's space. Like, I see you got a podcast. Can you put me on? I don't want to, you invite me, I'm down, but
Make your own, boo-boo.
But I had reached
On the
out
Spectrum. This is the name of the
before.
show.
I already had
On the
reached out to her
Spectrum.
before.
Yeah, that's the name.
It was National Autism Day for tomorrow. I had already reached out to her because I feel like you said it's happening more, and I'm hearing it more
common
often
Dude,
now.
I just found out a really good friend of mine, her daughter is on the spectrum, and she just posted it today because it's autism and
you
all
know
that
what?
stuff.
Some of these parents, when they find out, and I say this like I've been honored in a way. Like, they call me first. They're like, hey, I haven't even told my husband yet, but what do I do?
That's amazing.
And I always tell them, don't be scared.
Yeah.
I'll go back to every DM I've ever sent to somebody. I'm like, don't be scared. You're not in this alone,
Yeah.
and I'm here with you. Like, I'm nobody, but I'm this person that can be with you to guide you through just like the next couple of years. It's gonna be wild until you kind of figure out like what the function is and how to get a cap on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're scared, you know, because these doctors give them a packet of information and they literally say,
So
go
hard.
home and apply for this and get on this and call this number and get on this waiting list and you're
that's
just so
it.
overwhelmed.
Yep.
And then they're like, and you need this testing, and then I would go get this testing, I would go get genetics, I would go get MRI. I've had MRI, brain scans, I've had it all done. That's what the doctors told me to do, but did I really get any information? Not
And what's
really.
it for anyway? You've already diagnosed my kid, so how about we just deal
Because
with
that's
with
where,
it?
That's
you
where
know?
they want to see, is it in the genetics? So my son was born without a certain chromosome. I found out later after I did testing, and they thought it could be relatable, but really it was just a deficiency in his, like, so he has febrile seizures, so his body can't control fevers, so he cannot get sick. If he gets sick and he gets a fever, he falls into a febrile seizure. So that was something I found out through the genetics testing that I would have never
that's
known.
another challenge.
Yeah. And also when he was born, his my cord was wrapped around his neck. So for a second, we're all in bliss, like, push, stop pushing. And I just remember everybody's face went like he was purple. He had stopped breathing, and my cord wrapped him.
Yeah.
So when I went to college, because I also went to I went to college for communication and behavioral disorders, because I wanted to know. I wanted to educate myself, so I know I don't want to always listen to a doctor. I started to read about the lack of oxygen, and sometimes in the first year of their life, sometimes even in the first like month of their life, the oxygen is so vital in their brain. It's literally popping out like brain cells as their blood is flowing,
Yeah.
that if the oxygen gets cut off for even a second, you're talking about months of delayed development.
Wow.
That's why I'm scared of the epidural.
Yeah.
Because the Pitocin can cause the baby to stop getting oxygen, even like this, like that.
And
That's
you
all
know,
it takes.
All you need is a second.
And this,
That's
I
all it
didn't
takes.
see that documentary, The Business of Being Born, until after I had my first son. And so, no.
Is that the Ricky Lake one?
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, what happened was I went into labor and I was fine. But
Yeah.
now that I think back, I think I was taking too long because I was there for 14 hours, but I was chilling. I was having, what is it called? Like contractions, but I wasn't in any pain. I felt good. I don't know what the fuck that shit's called.
She's like, what are those things called?
What
when
are
you have
those
a baby?
things called? They're supposed to hurt. I don't know what they are. But we were already there like 14 or 15 hours, and this is when they came in to tell me that Isaiah is in distress. He's got the umbilical cord wrapped around his
So
neck.
do you think that was something that could contribute?
Well-
that had contributed?
Well, look, this was my first one. So they did an emergency C-section. And then when it was time for Aiden, which was about 5 or 6 years later, I called 5 or 6 doctors. And after that, I gave up because I was like, I wanted to do it vaginally.
Yeah.
And they said no.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted to touch it, right? And so for him, he was scheduled. Like
Yeah.
August 20 or July 22nd, you're coming in. That's it. We don't
Yeah.
want to hear nothing about it. And sometimes I wonder, like, was that
A part of it.
Yeah, was that a part of it? And it's crazy because now I have a new doctor, and she's like, and I kind of like her because she's like, hold on,
She tells you.
after the first one, you would have been okay.
Yeah.
Now that you've had the second one, now
you
there
can.
are issues, and some doctors will do it, but you're 39. So, but I think it's like a whole slew of things
Well,
mixed
that's
together.
that's why whenever I was pregnant, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing that I did way too much reading because I was paranoid about everything, and I was like so
I think
hyper,
it's best
like
to be educated than not know
alert
anything at all.
to everything. It was like, okay, I don't know about that one. Well, let me look more into that one
Yeah.
because you're suggesting it, but I don't know. Just like when I was told, like after I have this baby because I have these fibroids, right? He suggested a hysterectomy, so there I go down the hysterectomy,
Yeah.
rabbit hole. What is this going to do to me? Is this going to cause me to go into early menopause? Luckily, I'm not getting ovaries taken out, so it doesn't cause you to go into early menopause or whatever. But I'm such a weirdo like that, and I just get into these rabbit holes where I like start to teach
I
myself
think
about
you
things.
should. I think you should
Yeah.
as a parent educate
And look,
yourself.
it wasn't
teach
me
yourself.
till after the fact
Yeah.
that I started to go down these rabbit holes. But after that, it was already too late.
Yeah.
And I'm new at this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trusting my doctor.
Well, that's you. That
Yep.
phrase right there.
Yeah.
We all trust
The
the
doctor.
doctors.
Trusting the doctor.
and that's the
you
thing.
know what this new doctor told me? She goes, "How long were you in labor for the first one?" I said, "Like 15 hours." She goes, "Maybe you're just taking too long."
Well, yeah, because you're
I'm about
you're
to
a
push a
business.
human-
Yeah,
being
like she
out.
was no. But what she didn't want to say that the
Yeah.
doctor was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But what she was basically saying was they were probably just
Yeah.
trying to rush you to
Right.
get you out of there, because
Well,
it really is a
99% of the
business.
time, it
It's
is a
the business
business.
of being born.
Yeah.
Well, Jamin was 3 weeks early because my doctor had to leave for Thanksgiving. So I always think back, like, dang, did I rush his
Can't trust that
delivery?
motherfucker. That's why I birthed at home.
Did
I know y'all think I'm
but-
crazy,
No,
but
I don't think you're crazy. I wish I would have done that.
Baby, and so I'm thinking like, okay, well, you got to go where? Okay, so when's my date? He was supposed to be due in December, and he was born 11/22. He was 3. He was preemie. He was six.
He still needed more time to do his thing in there.
And so I didn't bake him the full time. And then he came out with the umbilical cord. So I mean, I was just like, did I do this to my baby? But then also after doing research,
well, you can't blame yourself.
Yeah, you do though.
But you do.
You do.
Yeah.
Because had something been there had
Yeah,
been an
no, I
issue
get
with
it.
Penny,
Yeah,
you would have
of course,
you would have backtracked
definitely, for
absolutely
sure.
Like,
everything.
what could I have done? What could I have ate?
Yeah.
What, did I eat something wrong? I thought automatic. I was like, man, I was craving Taco Bell so much. I ate Taco Bell so much.
Girl, I
It's
ate
not
so
my
many
fault.
damn hot wings with the first one.
Yeah.
My baby was born with
hot wings
acid,
sauce on it?
acid reflux.
Yeah.
They're like, you got to stop doing that. I was like, fuck you.
I'm eating.
And I did it anyway, girl.
Yeah.
So what was the size of your baby when he was born?
6 pounds and 7 ounces.
Wow, I was like the twins. The twins
right?
were also, they were 6 weeks premature.
Yeah.
They were in ICU for I don't know how long, but yeah, it was like 5 or 6 pounds. I just saw a picture the other
they
day.
were premature?
Yeah,
That's pretty damn
super
big.
preemie.
Yeah, that's
Well,
Shout out to Dawn, man. When is she going to be on here?
Right?
yeah, she's down now. I mean, she was just
she's
busy
down
one day.
now? Okay.
Yeah. But I saw a hand next to them, and they were literally the size of the person's hand next to him. I was like, that's wild.
Yeah.
Both of my boys were born. Isaiah was a month premature, the oldest, and Aiden was 3 weeks, and they were both damn near 7-pound babies.
Yeah.
They were the biggest kids in the NICU.
Yeah.
But what happens is when they come a little bit early, things are still not all the way developed. They've got
Yeah.
fluid in their lungs. Like they still
there's
needed a
stuff
little
going
more
on.
time to cook.
Shit, I had to nudge Penny. I said, "Come on, girl, you are almost 2 weeks
And she was
past due."
holding on, girl.
She was, and she wasn't even still ready. I was like,
He was holding in there like,
man, I'm telling you, my midwife said, listen, I'm going to stick my fingers right now in you, and I'm going to nudge her, and we're going to see what happens. If she comes tonight, great. If she doesn't come, it was going to be Friday the 13th that year.
Wow, that's
If she doesn't come by Friday the 13th, we're going to have to start doing natural things to start making her, because this is too long. And luckily, that afternoon, I started feeling it. I was like, thank God. I was like, this child's been in me so long. I was so big already. I mean,
You're ready.
I was
It's miserable.
done.
Yeah.
I was done. Even right now, I'm telling Pete, I'm like,
What month was she born, Boo?
July.
And that's what Isaiah and Aiden were both summer babies.
Yeah. I wasn't hot though. I was fine. I don't
Girl,
know
was hot.
why. I was fine.
Well,
was
I
hot.
was pregnant during Hurricane Harvey. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
The one after Katrina was it? No, that was
No, that was
Ike.
Ike.
I was Harvey.
That was like- that was like 4 years ago.
Sorry, telling my husband I wasn't pregnant during Hurricane Harvey. Ike. So we had just bought our house. We had just built it. We bought property and built up. So I was like isolated. I had like one neighbor like away. We were in spring at the time, and the hurricane hit, and he had to go back to work.
Oh.
And we didn't have power for 11 days.
Oh,
And it
my
was the
gosh.
summer. It was horrible. It was horrible. So little things like that too. I always thought back like, dang, did I do something wrong? I always thought, did I do something wrong? But once I started to read like the books and the textbooks, because there's also things about the brain, right? His brain development. There's things called teratogons. I wasn't a mother who exposed my son to this, but there are mothers who maybe they drink a beer, they drink alcohol, they smoke something, they took something, even medication, even like so much as aspirin. There's chemicals in it. So the teratogons can release something harmful in the brain that kind of switch the wires around for them while they're developing. These are all things that are very real that we don't really consider to look at, unless
But it's
they make a
hard to
documentary
really
on Netflix. It's
pinpoint one thing because correlation doesn't mean causation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
of
it doesn't
course.
mean that because something is kind of similar that it was the cause, but that's
when you're
what
talking
makes
about-
it so hard.
Yeah, and then when you're talking about autism, there's so many factors, right? Because we don't know what it is. We really, really don't. And I'm kind of a firm believer.
I feel
that
like it's
I
the
think it's-
formula and environmental.
It's environmental. That's
Yeah.
what I was going to say. I feel like it is agricultural because we're putting so much stuff on our food to preserve it and then we're taking it in and then we're doing something to our children, and it might not be autism. They might come out with ADHD.
Yep.
They might come out with, dyslexia.
Yep.
They might come out as deaf. They might come out as blind. There's so many forms of
And isn't it
disabilities.
funny how they're allowed to poison our food and then they poison the food, they get you sick, and then the medical industry comes in and they
Yeah.
start to make money
All
off
day.
of you. So it just
All day.
it's this
And
crazy
autism
circle.
is not curable, by the way. And I always say this because I've had parents when I was an ABA, working as an ABA therapist. I went to people's homes. I did the in-home therapy for the people that their insurance didn't cover private centers. So I would go inside the home and I would spend
oh
4
my
hours
God,
there.
this woman is a
Girl, no, it was. I
Wow.
was really upset though because I would think if you came into my home and you want to show my son some skills, I want to be right there with my son and I want to learn. Right? These
Yeah.
parents would leave. They would leave for 4 hours. I was a babysitter, and I would sit there and I would do stuff with their kids. They would have tantrums and meltdowns. And the parents weren't there. I mean,
That was my problem.
Yeah.
For me, that's a problem.
but why not get involved? Why not learn?
Exactly.
I'm your
no,
tool.
but
Use
you know
me.
what? You were the only thing that gave a damn in those 4
Yeah,
hours.
exactly.
So
You
just
know
take
what?
advantage
I'll never
of it.
forget the day there was one parent that did stay, and you could tell she was overwhelmed. She had twins that were she had the triplets that were autistic.
All
Triplets.
three?
It was 2 boys and a
Oh,
girl.
my
They were
God.
all autistic, and they were high functioning, but they were like little
It's still hard.
they were just like so impulsive. I mean, you could just tell she had a hard time, and she had and they were from Jamaica, and I remember her telling me, my husband tricked me into marrying him and he got me pregnant with all these kids, and now all I do is work. And she would just vent to me all day. She was really overwhelmed. But one day I remember the little girl got the trash can and she dumped it I don't know why she dumped it, but she went and she dumped that trash can, and that mom whooped her butt so bad in front of me, and I'll never forget. She turned around, she goes, I will beat the autism out of this child. And I was like, you can't do that. You cannot do that. It is not curable.
Yeah, for some people it's just overwhelming, and I get it. So when I worked at the foster agency as a little side hustle, I took on babysitting these kids who had this mom adopted a child with autism and very low functioning, okay? And then she had one that had autism, schizophrenia. I forgot the other one was. At one point, they were scared of the little girl because she tried to kill the baby when they first adopted the little boy, right?
Yeah.
But she wanted kids so bad, she didn't care what issues they had or whatever. And then she told me a story about she was breastfeeding the little girl. I'm sorry. She was breastfeeding the little boy, right? Even though that wasn't her child. I don't know what she was doing to breastfeed the child, right? I didn't want to ask either.
Women
hand that rocks the cradle,
right? I told Rob about that movie the other day. I said, "You've never seen it?"
That woman is sick.
But my point is, she was taking her to her therapy, and they came back. I was with that happened a long time ago. The little boy now was like 6, and she was like 9, right? And so she comes back from their therapy really early, and I was like, "What happened?" She goes, "This is what happened," and she pointed. The little girl was so angry, didn't want to go to therapy, ripped off skin.
Oh my God.
Like it was pinched. I said, you should probably go to the hospital. And she goes, I know, but my husband's not here. I'm waiting for him to get back. I said, go. I will stay here with your son. And when your husband gets here, I will leave. And then she's like, well, he can't. I said, then fine. Let your husband meet you at the hospital. I'll stay with your son because he was way easier to handle than she was. She was tough cookie. Like I couldn't do it anymore. Like with her, it was too much. I didn't have the tools, first of all, because schizophrenia with autism is a whole different thing. We're talking about two different
bipolar
issues.
Bipolar disorder. Yeah.
Yes, and so now we're talking about when you're dealing with one, you also have to deal with the other. So when her therapist would come, her psychologist would come too. So they were both having to work together and at the house. It was a lot. And how this lady did it, I really don't know.
So
but
I always tell moms
them.
that. I always tell moms that whenever they are having a hard time and they always say, I don't know, why me? Like, why do I have to go through this? And you're watching your sisters and your friends and everybody live their life with their child having mediocre problems, such as like, she pooped on herself, and I'm trying to potty train her. When you're like, my son's 13, and he literally pooped on himself because he was mad at me. Some of these things really happen. Jamin just did something he ripped up money recently. When I said somebody paid him, he came home, and he ripped up $20, just kept ripping it. And me and my husband found all this shredded money on the floor, and we were like, why would you do that? Sometimes I was like, money's ripped out. Like, that's hard to come
That's
by.
my Jack in a Box money.
And so there's just things that happen, right? But I always tell the moms, it's your job because you were picked specifically for this child.
Yeah.
God put you on this earth for this child because nobody else can do it like you. So
Amen.
Consider it like your role, right? Like even when you want to give up, and Lord knows I have my days where I just want to drive to San Antonio, get a room and hide for the weekend. I'm saying it now.
Girl,
At the
I'm talking
Pearl.
about an eternity. I am not coming back.
There's a movie, the Yaya Sisterhood, where the mom leaves. Do you remember that? She has a breakdown. So she goes to a hotel and she wakes up and she's like, what day is it? And she's like 2 days later, she slept for 2 days. I mean, sometimes I feel like I've reached that point. But I always,
feel like that all the time.
I know, every day.
I take long showers on purpose.
I watch videos in the shower.
I do, but you know what? Like, nobody's gonna do it like I do it.
Yeah.
If I die tomorrow, I'm sorry, and I mean, nobody's gonna do it like I do it. You know, and he needs me.
So don't die.
I can't die. I can't
die.
I have to be careful at all times, but you know, it's just nobody's gonna do it like you. Nobody knows Aiden the way you know Aiden. Nobody knows Jamin the way I know Jamin. Like and you're gonna fight for him tooth and nail before anybody else does. You know, and
that's very true.
If your husband's involved, my husband's involved, great. You know, but they just don't do it like we do it.
No,
you know?
girl, my husband is like, nah, he's a Marone. Let him. Like,
My husband says the same thing.
we have to correct him.
Oh, my husband's like, I did that when I was little. I'm like, you're probably autistic too, and you didn't get diagnosed. So some of the things he says and does, I'm like,
Chingle Bling Jr. over here.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
tell
God,
that.
for real.
I don't know what I said something. I said, I think you may have Asperger's. And he goes, what? I said, I don't know. I just really think you may have Asperger's. And so then he looks it up and he's like, I think I might have Asperger's.
When you self-diagnose.
Wow. When you first saw him pull out the Canelo wig, was that why?
That wasn't it. That sealed it.
It's just sometimes some of the things he does, and it just goes from observing children.
Of course.
And so I'm just like,
no, but seriously, there are some things. There's some things as an adult. We don't talk about adults on the spectrum as much as we talk about the children. But there's
some people don't even find out till they're older.
I had a friend who actually found out her husband was autistic at the age of like 35. And they had been married for like 15, 20 years, but she was like, now I know why he gets on my damn nerves. And her son was actually had Asperger's, so she's like, oh, it's your fault. You know, they did that little thing. But no, she was really supportive about it. She's like, well, I'm going to do what I do with my son. I'm going to try to get some
it's different though, because like I said, dealing with an adult who has Asperger's with the guy that I was trying to help find work, he knew he was going to marry somebody one day. He knew he had no issues, and he wasn't ugly, so it wasn't like. And he, the only thing, which was I think that's any mom issue because he lived at home. His mom had a problem with him not keeping up with his room, but I think that's guys in general, you know, just not keeping up with themselves. I don't know about your son,
but my son's he's the cleanest room in the house. He doesn't like anything on the floor.
Girl.
He doesn't like.
He doesn't have anything on the floor, but the way he cleans, he puts everything on the windowsill because he's got this long.
Hey, but you can see the floor, you know.
Yeah,
so there you go.
Yeah.
My daughter. Gross. My son, you walk in his room, you see the floor, all his bins, everything's organized. I mean, he's neat like that. He doesn't like when you go in there and touch his stuff either. He knows. I've actually had to, like, I donate stuff all the time. I clean my house, like, repetitively. Like, I gotta get this. You have to use this in a week. We're donating it. You know, I don't play that game. Don't bring something to my house that it's going to sit there. So he knows. He's like, Mom, where's my red car with the number 24 that has the black hood and the red tires? I'm like, oh, I donated it. You know, like, oh my God.
You got rid of Lightning McQueen?
I got rid of Lightning McQueen.
How dare you?
Yes,
How dare you?
He knew, and I was like, man. So I had to go back to Goodwill.
You damn right you did.
Rebuy it.
Damn right you did.
We found it at Goodwill.
You had to rebuy it.
But he remembers everything. So now I've learned my lesson. I don't go in his room. As long as I just keep it clean. I won't go in there. Just keep your room clean. So that's what he does. He keeps everything in bins, and I don't see it. But
you know, going back to the food thing, and we're gonna end it because I know it's Chingo's next to record before he's like, damn, what the hell?
It's time for the pills.
It's time for it's funny because before I had Penny, even with Mickey, I didn't allow certain foods in our house, and I know her mom does, which is fine, right? Yeah. And so I remember she asked me for these things called Z bars, which are the ones that are in the back,
delicious.
Right? Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Have you seen how much sugar in the back of it and all the mess? Of course, right? Mm-hmm. And so I looked at them, and so I don't buy regular juices, and everything has to be like the sugar's less. And so I just one day, and I told her, I said, I am sorry. I said that I do this to you. I said, I know that you probably want the real Capri Sun. I'm sorry that I buy this Honest Kid
we tear up
juice.
the Honest.
You know,
Honest is popular because of all the parents who really care. Of course.
So I was like, I'm sorry, and I was just kind of. She's like, no, it's fine. She goes, because then I made her conscious of like, so she won't have Hawaiian Punch juice, right? So she'll say, well, the amount of sugar for me and the dye, you know what I'm saying? So she'll say stuff like, I saw this kid bring a whole thing of Hawaiian Punch to class. You know, she'll say stuff like that. And it's funny because I'm like, okay, I also don't want them to not be a kid, right? I mean, if you see my shelf over there, everything's organized, but there's candies, there's crackers, there's everything.
And if they go to a birthday party, you don't pack their lunch.
Girl, when I have birthday parties, the Honest stays in our refrigerator, but I give all the kids Capri. So and today's your day to go crazy.
And when we go to birthday parties, they hold that candy bag so tight because it's like, I haven't had candy since Halloween. I'm about to eat all of this candy because I don't buy candy in my house. I can't. It triggers my son. The dyes and the sugar, it makes him go crazy. So I don't.
Oh yeah, I give Aiden ice cream. Is that okay?
Oh, I don't care. It's
just
fine.
Kidding.
It's okay. He'll be all right.
I'm glad you brought that up because another informational tip: food is medicine.
Yeah,
food is medicine, and everybody's so quick to say, "I need to get my kid on meds." No, you don't. All you gotta do is take the sugar out of their system. That's all you gotta do, and all you gotta do is monitor what they're eating, and all you gotta do is not feed them this before bed. You know what I mean?
Of
Just
course.
common sense stuff, and change up some of the products that you're buying at home, and I promise you'll see a change. And that's in any child.
Yeah.
But especially with the kids that have...
Because they all have, leaky gut, inflammation, and something else.
Even eczema is a big deal with the kids in the autism world. They have the skin is like, my son, poor baby, he has like, he's been red his whole life, so he just looks like he's real scaly. We have to get medicated ointment for that now because it's just gotten out of control. But I notice he gets it more whenever like he goes to grandma's house or we go to a birthday party or we're out of our
because
our
what you eat pops up on your skin.
And yes, a leaky gut. So they prefer you to go with gluten-free. I did try it for the first like 2 years, but it's really tough. So what I do though is I try just to avoid as much gluten as I can. You know what I mean? But I still try to cook the best, that I can. We all do. As a parent, you really do try.
You really do try. Just
you really do.
I don't have control of my babysitter, right? Yeah. Like she'll bring her Hostess cakes, right? And so I'll see her have a yogurt.
So good right now.
Yeah, I have these Chobani yogurts, right? Like I make sure that they're like the good kind. You know what I'm saying? I read the back, and so then I'll see her, and I'll be like, so she's having a healthy yogurt with
a ho-ho.
This defeated the purpose of her having this, right?
Yeah.
So I just told her, I said, hey, so there's oranges in there. There's apple. I said, there's strawberries. I said, bananas. Can we dice that up instead? I said, and can that be her breakfast? She said, but she really likes this. Like, you have to allow her to be a kid. I'm like, totally. Oh, we don't do soda either, right? I don't allow her to have soda. And we pulled up at the birthday party one time.
Everybody's passing out Cokes and Sprites.
And so
and you had your own goodie bag.
She goes, she can't have this, right? I said, absolutely not. But I didn't know that her grandkids get a whole canned soda for them. They're allowed. And I was like, oh, that's why she was asking me. And I said, no way, Jose. I said, she's
like a regular Coke?
It's
like
a regular
sugar
like
Coke?
Fanta. One of them had Fanta. The other one had Fanta, so good too.
Dude, but that Manza de Sol.
Oh yeah, they don't have they didn't have the Mexican drink. They had the actual like soda cans.
Just do Topo Chico and everybody's happy.
Exactly.
With some squeezy in there.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I was just kind of like,
sometimes we'd be cheating though.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm not acting like she has this perfect, but I do. Like, I don't buy, so Mickey likes the applesauce and the little squeeze things, right? And so I would buy them for her. Check this out. So Penny has never had that. She's only had homemade applesauce. So the first time I gave it to her, she goes,
what is this?
She's like, ugh.
Okay, I guess I'll have this, right? All because I didn't feel like going to boil the apples. You know what I'm saying?
It's a process.
I have the baby bullet. When she was born, listen, I boiled every vegetable.
I've had it for a while.
I boiled the vegetables. I pureed everything, and she was having legit, real stuff. I didn't buy the pouches until a little bit later on. As she got a little bit older, I was like, okay, this is coming way too much work. And then I was buying the pouches, and the pouches were getting expensive. And then
it's a process,
And so it was like, okay, I'm just gonna go. And then I found out that there's that one brand too that wasn't that great either. So I was like, great. I was like, okay, I don't know what to do. But anyway, my point to that was, so then the other day, she asked for applesauce, right? This was recently, right? So I said, damn, there's none made. I said, well, can you have this? So I gave it to her. Well, it didn't sit right with her, so she threw it up. So she was like, I don't want this anymore, right? So I was like, fine. So then this was now way later, and again, we ran out of the homemade applesauce. So I asked her if she wanted this. It's the green kind, and she goes, no, yo. And I was like, so she knows that she's not going to have that applesauce anymore because she knows it made her throw up.
And good for you for being firm, because I know there's times, even though I don't tolerate too much, sugar, if my son does like crave something, like he wants me to stop and get something fast, and I'll just be like, okay, I'll just but good for you for being firm, because it's a process, and I'm hard. So tired, and I have to go home and I have to make these plant-based nuggets for him because I'm scared of him to eat chicken.
I know,
it's a process. I know, but do air fryer, everybody. Air fryer.
I love my air fryer. I have one.
Everything.
I made my what do you call it? I guess fried tenders yesterday, and I just told Peter, I was like,
changer.
I love that. I still get fried, but it's not oily. Like my mouth is not like right in my mouth, right? So I made homemade tomato soup yesterday. That was another thing. I told Mickey, I said, listen, I know you like homemade. I know you like tomato soup, right? I said, I know you like the one from La Madeleine. I said, I know you like the kind in the jar. I was like, but we don't know what is all in there. I said, so I said, I have a recipe and I'm going to make it for you. Okay. I said, we know everything that's coming in there. The onion is being chopped. I said, we have real fresh garlic here. So I'm like telling her like everything that's going in there. I said, you're getting real tomatoes. You're not getting, tomatoes, whatever they use. And I don't really know, jars, I guess. So I said, so it is not going to taste as great. I said, I'm sure as the one at the store because, they add all the great stuff to it, right? I said, but it's still going to be good. She loved it. She took it for lunch today. So that's what she wanted for lunch. So I was like, I'm so glad she liked it because sometimes for her, it's just same thing with like, she kind of likes refried beans in the can versus me making refried beans at home. So I said, fine, I'll start adding chorizo in them. She's not going to know the difference, right?
Yeah.
But chorizo also isn't the best thing ever. Well, it doesn't relieve us enough grease to make them taste that great. That's the other issue, right?
It's not our grandma's back in the day with the manteca.
Gotta have that one.
So I told her, I said, fine. I said, you like this? Fine. I went and bought the chorizo. We do the beans, we mash them, and so that she can have that too, right? So that's I try my best. Obviously, as a parent, you want to try your best, but because I feel like if I'm feeding my body good, right? Why am I not feeding my child the same, right? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm conscious about what I want to put in my body, if it's got enough protein and this and that, right?
You can't advocate a healthy lifestyle and then let your kids literally
exactly.
Just
so they're a product of me. You know what I'm saying? So obviously, like like I said, I'm not acting like I don't feed Penny anything because she has goldfish. You know what I'm saying? She does have all those snacks, obviously, but I try my best to whatever she does have that it's made here. She just tried McDonald's and it wasn't with me. Y'all know it was with my babysitter. You know what I'm saying? So she tried the cajita feliz.
You remember your first Happy Meal?
Oh my God.
It was not with me. So I don't remember. I haven't had a Happy Meal in a long time. Ew, but wait, I tried her nuggets one time. She brought it home.
The French fries are made out of tire rubber, so
they're so gross.
Look, everything has right. The Subway breads, yoga mats. Who knows what
the best thing to do is just do your research, cook what you can at home, know what's going into your food, and then food is medicine.
And just be cognizant
that's on everything.
of it.
That's on everything. Sure. So I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
This was fun. It was cool.
You were amazing.
I hope that if you guys need more information,
hey, thanks guys.
We're all amazing. Yes. Look her up at Domesticated Photos and follow her, guys. Follow all her businesses. And if you
follow
want
them
all her information, she's great advocate for her son. So shout out to Raymond.
Jamin. Okay, basketball
I know, right?
coach.
I was just going to say. Like, because she said Raymond
with the J.
So that's why.
I will be more verbal, especially this month, because I feel like the gates are open this month for me to do so without people like, oh my God, here she is talking about it again. But this is my life. This is what I do, and this is what I live for. And so I feel like everybody in my circle appreciates and respects that. And I feel like if just like her reaching out, like I said, it takes one person on the other side of the spectrum to reach out and say, how can we make this connection? Yeah. And it also starts in the home. So if we can get these conversations started, if we can just sit down, even if it's once a week, and just say, hey, did you see anybody today? Did you talk to anybody today? Were you nice today? Manners and morals. I mean, come on.
it ain't that hard.
It ain't that hard. Let's open up this conversation. And advocacy, I always tell people, an advocate, the primary definition is to support publicly. All you got to do is support publicly. If you see something that doesn't look right, if you see somebody flicking something at somebody's head because they're different, say something. Yeah. Be involved. Tell an adult.
Or take off your chancla and whip that child yourself.
Take off your pad and just wipe it.
There you go. You know what I mean? But it takes somebody to just publicly support. And that's all. Everybody, like I said, everybody wants to be a political analyst and everybody wants to be a medical expert, but let's publicly support autism and disabilities.
Sure. and everybody who's different.
And everybody who's
that's
different.
Right.
And imagine the kind of world we'd be living in.
For sure.
Boy, she did that.
I know, right? On that note, thank you so much for being on us. We really appreciate it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And I hope it sheds some light. If you don't know anybody with, autism,
then just be that light.
Yeah. And
just be that light.
Inform yourself. And it's okay if you don't have a child with autism, as long as you know and you can bring awareness yourself. So I think that's all it takes, right?
Accept.
Exactly. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.